The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151. You can't kill me, you can beat me half to death. In the center of the martial arts arena, Shinki bowed and said, Iron Bone Sect. Shinki, the disciple of Heoki Sect, said indifferently, Heoki Sect, Tan Yang. After speaking, a wave of heavy spiritual energy suddenly emerged from his body, and it seemed that he wanted to use his momentum to intimidate his opponent first. It was a pity that Shinki was unmoved, and his eyes showed a trace of disdain. The martial artists watching the fight were a little bit unacceptable. The disciple sent by Heoki Sect was a 9th grade martial artist. How could the disciple of Tegu Sect have the confidence to disdain to care? Or was it that their leader was arrogant, and the disciples were also arrogant? Alas. The upper beam is crooked, and the lower beam is crooked. Start. The referee shouted. Shinki was the first to attack. He took a step forward, and his left and right fists operated the explosive fist at the same time, and suddenly bombarded, and only heard the sound of bang 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 incessantly. He approached too fast, and punched too fast. Tan Yang couldn't dodge at all, so he could only inject spiritual power into his body and counter the moves with his palms. Boom. Boom. Shinki's fists seemed to be filled with a force of 10,000 kilograms, hitting again and again, and the force soared straight up, and finally broke through to 17,000 kilograms. Feeling the strong wind and the momentum formed by the blast, the expressions of the bigwigs from all sides gradually stiffened. This disciple of the Tegu school is just like Li Fei just now, with only a 5th grade martial arts apprentice. Why can he hit with such high power? Exclamation mark. Shinki pays more attention to the body in boxing. When he uses the explosive fist, no matter the strength or power, he is definitely stronger than Li Fei, who uses his feet. This is strong, not just a little bit. Shen Tong's eyes almost popped out. The power of the 2 5th grade martial arts apprentices of the Tegu school is higher than that of his 9-star martial arts apprentice, which is really a heavy blow to his self-esteem. Boom. Boom. Shinki's fists were like 2 hammers, bombarding wildly. Tan Yang fell into defense from the beginning, and it was difficult to break free, so he could only fall into an absolute passive state. Thump, thump, thump. The body kept retreating, and finally stood on the edge. Due to the dense attack of punches, it was difficult to block them all, so they could only put their arms together and let the opponent bombard them. The corners of the mouths of the big men from all sides twitched. They felt like they were watching the disciples of the Tegu school swinging their fists to hit sandbags. The one who was hitting others was a 5th grade martial artist, and the one who was being beaten as a sandbag was a 9th grade martial artist. This world is too crazy. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, it's really not difficult. From the beginning, he didn't take the Heoki Sect seriously, otherwise he wouldn't have always emphasized that this was just a small monster on the way to challenge the big boss. Now Shinki used a disciple of a 9th grade martial artist as a sandbag to bombard him wildly, which was enough to explain everything. Tan Yang, who was in an absolutely passive position, roared with bloodshot eyes. But just as he shouted, he was hit in the face by a heavy punch. His head tilted, and his body staggered back to the outside of the martial arts arena. Shinki clasped his wrist with one hand, pulled him from the elimination line, and threw him over the shoulder with his shoulder, then rode on his abdomen, and swung his fist to bombard him wildly. The headmaster said, you can't kill him, but you can beat him half to death. Bang, bang. Shinki leaned on Tan Yang, and with the ultimate explosive punch, he madly bombarded him, instantly making Tan Yang's nose and face swollen and foaming at the mouth. Finally, he passed out. Catcher, seeing his disciple being abused like this, Qin Horan clenched his fists, his cold eyes flashing with anger. There's no point in getting angry. This is a competition in the martial arts arena. If the disciple is abused, it means he is not as skilled as others. Swish. Shinki stood up and bowed, saying, thank you. The big bosses of the 100 Clan Alliance and the warriors from various forces who were watching the excitement all had interesting expressions on their faces. After the competition began, Tanyang fell into a passive position and could only block until he was beaten to death on the spot. He didn't fight back once during the whole process. Exclamation mark. This gap is too big. One Li Fei, one Changqiao, the disciples of Tigu sect are so strong. I finally understand why Xing'an sect was shaved bald when it challenged Tigu sect. Two disciples abused the 8th and 9th grade martial artists like it was a game. The inner disciples of Xing'an sect will undoubtedly be abused. Martial artists from all walks of life discussed privately. Although the head of Xing'an sect, who was standing in the crowd, had a red face, he felt much more comfortable. The two direct disciples of Alliance leader Qin were defeated one after another. It didn't seem so embarrassing that his disciples were defeated by Tigu sect. Master AI. Wang Donglin smiled and said, this Tigu sect is not simple. Two 5th grade martial artist disciples burst out more than 15,000 strengths one after another. They must have undergone extreme physical training. The second disciple's fist is so strong, it must be related to taking the body shaping pill. AI Shangni guessed. Martial artists with ordinary qualifications and low levels can use the body shaping pill to fight above their level. If they use it as a gimmick, it will definitely attract more attention and sell at a sky high price. Wang Donglin cares about the strength of his disciples and the effect of the body shaping pill. He is indeed a qualified businessman. After Shangqi returned to his position, Jun Changxiao bowed and smiled. Master Qin, your Heoki sect will send a disciple to the field for the 3rd game. Seeing that smiling face, Master Qin wanted to step forward and tear it apart. Calm down. Calm down. No matter how angry you are, you have to keep smiling. However, the disciple lost 2 games in a row, and the second one was abused. I can't laugh at all. Qin Horan suppressed his endless anger and looked at a disciple on the right behind him and said, go ahead. Yes. The 3rd disciple appeared. He was also a 9th grade martial artist, but he was stronger than Tanyang. Xiao Mu, go. Jun Chang smiled. Suzaomo came out with fists clenched and head shaking, saying, I was already excited at the foot of the mountain. I can finally have a good fight. Seeing the disciples of Tigu sect on stage, the leaders of all parties did not dare to jump to conclusions. Because they all thought that the disciples of Heoki sect would win, but in the end they all lost. Whoever they favored, they would be killed. This is not reverse poisonous support, but strength. Even if they fight a few more times, Sun Yi and Tanyang will still lose and be abused. They are not talented, and can make up for it with their cultivation, but can they make up for it with Shangqi and Li Fei who rely on various resources, various elixirs and even spiritual power arrays? I don't even know what it feels like to take elixirs that absorb 10 times the spiritual power for 10 consecutive days. The 3rd disciple of Heoki sect walked onto the stage, bowed and said coldly, Heoki sect, Lao Tai. Jun Changxiao twitched his mouth and said, no problem. Tigu sect, Suzaomo. Suzaomo said. After the two of them announced their names to each other, the referee shouted to start. Lao Tai took the lead, poured spiritual power into his body, and rushed over in an instant. Swish, swish. Suzaomo rolled back twice, stepped on his short legs, and ran around the edge of the martial arts arena. The speed gradually increased, almost rolling up the wind and waves. Lao Tai stood in the martial arts arena, watching his opponent spinning around, and it was difficult to keep up with the speed, and he didn't know how to attack. Wang Donglin said, this boy's good at physical skills. AI Shangli thought, yes, it must be related to the body shaping pill. Swish. At this moment, Suzaomo seized the opportunity, went around behind Lao Tai, and kicked directly. Bang. Lao Tai found it in time, turned around and punched Suzaomo's foot out, and was about to follow up with a second move, but the opponent ran away again. Damn it, he said angrily. Swish. Suzaomo appeared behind him without anyone noticing, and kicked him in the air. The speed was fast enough, but Lao Tai still caught it, and raised his arm in front of him, successfully blocking the powerful kick. Brother, be careful, someone exclaimed. Lao Tai was startled, and his peripheral vision caught sight of Suzaomo, and he saw this guy kicking his arm, leaning to the side, putting his hands together, with his middle and index fingers protruding, and stabbing hard at his butt. The chrysanthemum is broken, and the ground is covered with wounds. PS. Please vote on Monday. Chapter 152. Leader Qin loses control of his emotions. Bang. Suzuomo poured spiritual power into her fingers and stabbed Liu Tai's butt hard. Ah, the pain that could not be described in words spread across the martial arts arena. Hiss. Many warriors took a breath, and the parts of their bodies that could not be described were suddenly lifted up, their spines felt cold, and their scalps felt numb. There are many fatal points in the human body, such as the Beihu acupoint in the temple. In a high-level martial arts world like the Xinjiang continent, if you are hit hard, you will not die on the spot, but it will also cause huge damage. For example, Li Fei just now. A kick hit Sun Yi's temple. Although he did not die on the spot, he was dizzy and retreated, creating an opportunity for the Iron Bone shadowless kick. The Beihu acupoint in the temple are exposed to the outside, and martial artists can protect them with some spiritual power. If they are attacked by surprise, it will definitely be very painful. If they condense the violent spiritual power and stab it, they will have no hope of survival. Ah, Liu Tai covered his butt and jumped in the martial arts arena. His face was extremely ferocious. Just from the expression, one can understand what kind of pain it is. Shameless. Vulgar means. The bigwigs of the alliance condemned it angrily. This method is really despicable, and anyone in the martial arts world who has a bit of face will not use it. Jun Changxiao smiled secretly and said, a group of sanctimonious gentlemen. Although the disciples' methods are a bit dirty, it is enough to defeat the opponent and win. What's more, the opportunity was created by him, and he didn't use despicable means right from the start. If you want to blame someone, blame that kid for not protecting his but well and exposing that big flaw. Judging from this mentality, Suzuomo's methods must have been taught by him. Liu Tai was still jumping around in the martial arts field with his butt covered, and tears were flowing down. It can be seen that it was really painful. Swish. Suzuomo rushed over in a narrow step, his body flew into the air, and his right foot swept over suddenly. In terms of cultivation and leg strength, his strength is much stronger than Li Fei, and the opponent is in pain and has no defense at all, so he hit the temple on his left face with incomparable accuracy. During the period of closed-door training, Jun Changxiao must have taught them, otherwise it would be impossible for him to hit the important acupuncture points. Bang. Liu Tai, who was covering his butt, was dizzy and flew up from the ground like a cannonball and landed directly dozens of meters outside the martial arts field. Tegu Sect win another round. The corners of the mouths of the bigwigs and warriors from all sides twitched. Heoki Sect's loss in the first game can be described as carelessness. The second game was a suppression of strength martial arts, and the third game looked very easy. In normal competitions, the early fights are just appetizers, and the more they go on, the more exciting they become. Why does it feel like it's getting easier and easier? Qin Horan was so angry that his teeth were chattering. In his opinion, the Tegu Sect could only win one game at most. If the disciples used it improperly, they might be shaved bald. In the end, they lost all 3 games. Where is their face? Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Alliance Master Qin, are you deliberately letting them go by sending a bunch of trash to play? These words seemed to turn into a sharp sword, stabbing Qin Horan's heart fiercely, making him look a little ferocious. Damn guy. It's only the 3rd game. If you win 4 games in a row, you will still be a lowly servant in the stable like a dog. Alliance Master Qin no longer cares about shaving his head. As long as he wins the next games and wins, he can still trample on Jun Changxiao's self-esteem. Hu Zheng, go on the field. Yes. The direct disciple of Hu Zheng came out. He is a direct disciple with a top-grade spiritual root, and his strength is at the peak of martial arts. Qin Horan did not send a middle-grade spiritual root and a 9th-grade martial arts disciple, but he must win this game to boost morale. After thinking about it, Jun Changxiao said, Zuji, go. Hu. Zio Zuji clenched his fists, and the exposed muscles suddenly strengthened and became solid, and then walked towards the central area of the martial arts field. Wang Donglin frowned and said, this boy's physical strength is probably much stronger than the top 3 disciples. Looking at Zyrozuji, AI Shang slapped his forehead and said in a sudden realization, no wonder this boy can win the sect competition championship. It must be because of taking the body shaping pill. Heyoki Sect, Huzeng, Tigu Sect, Zyrozuji. After the two reported their names, the fight began. The disciple named Huzeng opened his spiritual power and immediately performed boxing, which not only rolled up the wind and waves, but also made a hissing sound. Heyoki Sect's unique martial arts, the middle grade high level wind and thunder fist. Middle grade martial arts, when used by a peak martial artist, the strength will definitely easily break through to 20,000 jins. If the Tigu Sect disciple is hit, the result will be bang, bang, bang. Before he finished speaking, the storm-like fists had already come. However, Zyrozuji stood still, spread his hands, and took all the fist shadows from all angles. It was so graceful. The bigwigs from all sides were a little dizzy. Huzeng, a top martial artist, used a mid-level high-level martial arts with a force of 20,000 jin. Even if you blocked it, you should at least step back a few steps after bearing so much force, right? He stepped back. However, it was a disciple of Heyoki Sect, because when the opponent attacked, Zyrozuji swung his arm and hit him, causing him to stagger back several steps. This attack was very powerful, and it was definitely more than 18,000 jin. Swish. Zyrozuji stepped forward, poured spiritual power into his right arm that had been tempered by thousands of hammers, and then swung it again. Huzeng, who had just stabilized his body, hurriedly raised his arms to block, but heard a loud bang, and was hit again and staggered back. Everyone was stunned. How strong was that kid's body, to be able to beat a top martial artist so badly with a frontal attack? Incredible. Wang Donglin exclaimed. He had never seen a martial artist who could temper his physical strength to such a terrifying level. Seeing that his disciple was beaten so hard that he could hardly stand, Qin Horan's eyes were red with anger. This battle was too crucial. If the disciple was beaten dizzy and lost the game, then Heyoki Sect would be defeated. It would be a defeat, but there was a prize. In front of so many people, as the leader of a sect and the leader of an alliance, what should he do? Qin Horan didn't dare to think about it anymore, and didn't care about his identity. He seemed to have lost his rationality, and roared at Huzeng, stand firm, fight back, fight back. The bigwigs from all sides were silent. They could fully understand that alliance leader Qin was out of control. After all, if this disciple lost again, he would have to go to the Iron Bone Sect to clean the toilet. I blame myself. Jun Changxiao folded his hands and said lightly, hit me hard. Zyrozuji received the order, poured all his spiritual power into his arms, swung them up suddenly, and blasted towards Huzeng, who had just stood firm. That power, that strength can only be described as fierce. Bang, bang, bang. Under the violent bombardment of Zyrozuji's arm like a big iron pillar, Huzeng was like a boxer at a disadvantage in the boxing ring. He could only bend over and use his arms to protect his head as much as possible. The boxing ring has guardrails to prevent retreat. The martial arts arena does not have them, so Huzeng was beaten dizzy and retreated step by step. Qin Horan shouted angrily, dodge, fight back. Huzeng was hit so hard that he felt dizzy and his ears gradually became deaf. The headmaster's almost crazy shouting weakened until it was completely annihilated. Puff. In the end, he covered his head and fell to the ground with a bang. The blue sky seemed to be spinning infinitely, and his soul seemed to float out of his body. Puff. Seeing his disciple fall outside the martial arts arena, Qin Horan covered his chest and spurted out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely ferocious. P.S. Thanks to why be too serious in this colorful world. EI. Maker. I love Brother B. Fushing. 9ZUO Wenxi. Crazy Blade Sanlang. And plus dash plus for their awards. Please vote for recommendation. Chapter 153. Smash the plaque for me. When Huzeng was knocked down outside the martial arts arena, and when Qin Horan couldn't bear the blow and vomited blood, the whole world suddenly became quiet. The warriors who were watching the excitement looked dazed and couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. The big boss of the 100 Clan Alliance looked at Qin Horan with an almost sad look. 4 of the 7 battles were played, and Heyokiman lost 4 games. It would be meaningless, even if they won 3 consecutive games in the next fight. Alliance leader Kin will also go to Tegu Sect to clean the toilet. That's the leader of Heokiman. That's our leader. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. The big bosses of various sects gathered in Heokiman in advance, weren't they, just to see Jun Changxiao make a fool of himself, and to see how the disciples of Tegu Sect were abused. What's the result? What's the result? The plot is exactly the opposite of what he thought. It was Qin Horan who made a fool of himself, and it was the disciples of Heokiman who were abused. The warriors who were watching the excitement came back to their senses, and chose to remain silent. Even those who were optimistic about Jun Changxiao would not have thought that the disciples of Tegu Sect would win 4 games in a row and win cleanly. An 8th-rate sect destroyed a 6th-rate sect. As a witness, I can believe it, but will the warriors who didn't see it believe it? It's not hard to imagine that when this matter spread in Qingyang County, the first reaction of those who didn't see the battle in person was nonsense, and the second reaction was bullshit. Wang Donglin fell into deep thought. The toughness shown by the 4 disciples of Tegu Sect shocked him greatly. He even began to wonder, how strong can these kids be, to go to Shengquan Mountain, to fulfill the 1-year agreement? Inexplicably, the elder of Kangshan Sect was a little looking forward to it. Leader Qin, my disciples won 4 games, and you have to fulfill your promise, to come to Tegu Sect to clean the toilet. Jun Chang smiled with a harmless smile on his face and said, don't worry, my toilet doesn't stink. Everyone's mouth twitched. God damn, your toilet doesn't stink. Leader Qin covered his chest with one hand, and the other hand trembled violently, and his breathing became rapid. He couldn't accept losing, and couldn't accept cleaning the toilets in the Tegu Sect. That guy. Jun Changxiao pointed at the warrior who was watching the excitement earlier and said, say what you just said again, let Alliance leader Qin hear it. The warrior who was pointed at hurriedly shrunk his head and body into the crowd. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, if you don't say it, I will repeat it. Looking at Alliance leader Qin, he said loudly, whoever is willing to gamble and refuse to admit defeat is a scum of the world, despised by everyone, and killed by everyone. Puff. Qin Horan spat out blood again after hearing this. What does a big man who is well known in the world care about most? That's right, that's reputation. Heoki Sect lost the battle today. If they don't fulfill their promise, they will be ruined. Qin Horan slowly raised his head, looking at Jun Changxiao with red eyes, and said with anger and murderous intent without hiding, Master Jun, don't go too far. Oh, I'm scared to death. Jun Changxiao pretended to be scared and crossed his hands on his shoulders and said, Master Qin, are you going to cheat and kill people to silence them? Wang Donglin smiled and said, Master Qin is the leader of a sect and the leader of the 100 Sects Alliance. How could he cheat? Master Jun is worrying too much. This is definitely a god's finishing blow. Qin Horan's body swayed, as if he might collapse, and sit on the ground. Master Jun. An Alliance boss couldn't help, but said in a cold voice, we are all people in the world. We will meet each other sooner or later. There is no need to do things too drastically. No need. Too drastic? Haha. Ah ha ha. Ah ha ha ha. Jun Changxiao laughed, laughing like a devil, laughing to make people feel cold. Suddenly, he stopped laughing, tilted his head, and said in a cold voice, old man, let me ask you, if it was my Tegu Sect that lost, would you stand up and say this? You won't. He won't either. None of you will. Because in your eyes, my Tegu Sect is born to be worth less than others, born to be humiliated, born to be a fish on the chopping board to be slaughtered. As his voice gradually increased, Jun Changxiao's face became ferocious. A bunch of hypocrites who talk about benevolence, morality, and hypocrisy. What qualifications do you have to say that you are bullying others too much in front of me? And what qualifications do you have to claim to be upright? Ziozaji. Jun Changxiao pointed at the hall, his forehead veins bursting, and said angrily, smash the plaque for me. Ziozaji, who had just retreated, summoned the Type 88 sniper rifle, and pointed the muzzle at the hall. Even if this shot could cause a huge mess, he did not hesitate to pull the trigger. The master's order, the disciples obey. Bang, streams of light burst out. More than 1,000 disciples, under the eyes of the big men from all sides, blasted over, and the plaque with the 3 characters Heokiman was directly blasted to pieces. 29. Suitable for travel and dismantling. Avoid opening the market and meeting relatives and friends. Seeing the plaque representing the dignity of the sect being smashed, Kinhoran's anger and murderous intent could no longer be suppressed. His martial arts master level cultivation completely erupted and rushed towards Zyozuji. 1 step, 2 steps, stop. Zyozuji moved the muzzle of the Type 88 sniper rifle over and locked it on his head. He said lightly, "Leader Kin thinks he can be faster than the Shenwei fire gun in my hand. Why not give it a try?" He held the gun proudly and threatened the leader of the Heoki sect and the leader of the 100 Clan Alliance. This scene can only be described in 2 words: awesome. Clang clang clang. The leader was targeted by a hidden weapon, and thousands of Heoki sect disciples drew their weapons together. Clang clang clang. Lu Qian, Li Qingyang, Suzaomo, Shine Qi, and Li Fei each showed their weapons to protect the leader, their eyes flashing coldly. Zhao Hong did not draw his sword, but the breeze blew away his messy hair, revealing his eyes as sharp as a sword. The ancient sword wrapped in black cloth was held in his arms, trembling slightly, as if it would be unsheathed at any time when summoned by its master. Yi Xingchen was silent for a while, walked to Jun Changxiao, and filled the last gap in the defense line. Forget it. I still have to rely on his resources. Just pretend that I'm a disciple of the Tegu sect now. So far, 8 disciples surrounded the head of the sect, occupying 8 positions. As long as the disciples of Heoki sect dared to come up, they would dare to fight back. On Lingquan Mountain, they were not afraid of the Shenquan sect. In Heoki sect, they could not be afraid of thousands of disciples. They dared to confront thousands of disciples in the territory of the 6th rate sect, and all the warriors were left with admiration. Kinhoran gnashed his teeth and said, "Jun Changxiao, you destroyed my Heoki sect's plaque, and trampled on my Heoki sect's dignity. This is an irreconcilable feud." Jun Changxiao said indifferently, "Isn't it ridiculous for a guy who cleans the toilet to talk about dignity?" This sentence seemed to tear Kinhoran's heart apart, and his face was twisted to the extreme in pain. He clenched his fists, and the murderous intent had never been so strong. But he didn't make a move, not because he was afraid of the Type 88 sniper rifle, but because Wang Donglin came over from behind and said, "Master Jun, it's a bit too much to smash someone's plaque." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Senior Wang, you just saw it. Alliance Master Qin has no intention of fulfilling his promise. I can only knock down the sign representing righteousness, to avoid tarnishing the word righteousness. In my opinion." Wang Donglin acted as a peacemaker and said, "Master Jun broke the plaque, so the prize you two set is invalid." This. Jun Chang smiled and held his chin and said, "I'll listen to Senior Wang, but I'm afraid Alliance Master Qin will not agree." Wang Donglin said, "I can waive the prize and clean the toilet for a year by using a plaque. How can I not agree? Really?" He looked at Kinhoran and said, "Alliance Master Qin. P.S. Please vote." Chapter 154. Determined to fight again. First he attacked with crazy words, then he knocked down the plaque of Heokiman. Did Jun Changxiao go too far? To be honest, it was very much. But it's not about whether it's excessive or not, it's about whether it should be done or not. On Lingquan Mountain, Kinhoran fanned the flames in front of the 3 elders of Shenquan sect, trying to retreat into the abyss. In Heokiman, Kinhoran added spice in public, wanting to trample on his dignity. For all these behaviors, Jun Changxiao thought he should do it, no matter how extreme he did it. Because if the loser was Tegu sect, this leader Qin and his fellow raccoons, no one would stand up and say that they were bullying too much, or that they shouldn't do things too extreme. In Xinjiang continent, as long as your fist is hard enough, others will calmly talk to you about reason. And you don't need to talk to them about reason. In fact, Jun Changxiao was absolutely sure that letting Zyozuji smash the plaque of Heokiman was not just a simple death. At most, you can use the plaque in exchange for not cleaning the toilet in Tegu sect. Wang Donglin saw his intention, so he stood up to be a peacemaker. Kinhoran, who was ready to kill, still forced himself to calm down and gritted his teeth unwillingly. The prize is void. He agreed. He gave in. As long as the prize is voided, there is no need to fulfill the promise, and he will not be ruined. In this way, Jun Changxiao seemed angry and asked Zyozuji to smash the plaque, but it gave Qin Mengsu a step down from not having to go to the Tigu sect to clean the toilet. Some people would say that the plaque representing dignity has been broken, so what's the point of killing Jun Changxiao and ending with flowers? Kill. Wang Donglin had to agree, and Ai Shang had to agree. One represented the Kangshan sect, and the other represented the Ai family. Qin Horan knew in his heart that it was impossible to kill Jun Changxiao. What's more, there were so many martial artists from all parties who were watching the fun. They all saw that their sect was beaten 0-4 and had lost the challenge. If they killed that kid, how would the world talk about them? This is the trouble of claiming to be a famous and upright sect. Everything has to be taken into consideration. If it were an evil sect, they wouldn't care so much. If you provoke me, I will kill you and your whole family. Of course. If it is really an evil sect, Jun Changxiao will definitely change another routine to target it. What routine? The sword that is difficult to put away is unsealed, representing justice to kill all the evil spirits. Leader Qin. Jun Changxiao smiled harmlessly. Since the prize is void, what is the purpose of you disciples drawing your swords? Qin Horan suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, put away your swords and retreat. The disciples of Heoki sect obeyed the order of the sect master, sheathed their swords, and then returned to their original positions. They could only stare to express their anger. Clang, clang. Li Qingyang and others also put away their swords and retreated behind the head of the sect. The tense atmosphere suddenly weakened a lot, and the warriors who were watching the excitement admired the head of the Tigu sect. He was able to break the plaque of Heoki sect and still be safe and sound. He is really amazing. Alliance Master Qin. Jun Chang smiled and folded his hands, saying, in the best of 7 system, my Tigu sect won 4 games. There is no need to continue the competition. I will take my leave first. Yi Xingchen was stunned. Leaving now? This emperor has not yet appeared. Alliance Master Qin, who gradually calmed down, said in a cold voice, Master Jun, although my Heoki sect lost, since 7 games have been set, we must play all of them, otherwise it will not comply with the rules of the martial arts world. 0-4, I can't stand it. The next 3 games must be won back. If this is spread to the martial arts world, it will be less embarrassing. This. Jun Chang smiled and said, Alliance Master Qin, I'm afraid that, if we continue to fight, your Heoki sect will lose 0-7. It is better to forget it. It will be easier to talk when we meet in the future. Everyone almost fell down collectively. You even broke the plaque of other people's sects. It will be lucky if you don't draw your swords when you meet in the future. Do you still expect to sit down and chat? 0-7? Qin Horan suppressed his anger and said with a cold face, you underestimate my Heoki sect. Are you determined to fight again? I'm determined to fight again. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, since Alliance leader Qin doesn't mind the shame, let's continue the competition. By the way, he smiled and said, do you want to add some prizes? Qin Horan said angrily, my Heoki sect has already lost, how can I add prizes? The first 4 games are just warm-up games, and they don't count. How about the last 3 games? We will decide the winners and losers. Jun Chang smiled. Wang Donglin and Ai Shang looked stunned. The victory was already in hand, but it didn't count, and the winners and losers were redetermined. What kind of drama is this? The alliance bosses and warriors from all sides were also stunned. Is he sick? Qin Horan was also a little confused, but he quickly reacted, fearing that the guy would change his words. Okay, the first 4 games don't count. The last 3 games will determine the winner. Let's do this. Jun Chang smiled and said, let's not play any prizes like cleaning the stables and cleaning the toilets. Let's do something practical. Whoever loses will pay out 10 million taels. 10 million taels? Everyone's eyes widened. This number is absolutely astronomical for the 8th and 9th rate sects and small families. Even the 7th rate sects and big families will be broken if they hand it over. Qin Horan said disdainfully, Master Jun, my Heoki sect can come up with 10 million taels, but your Tigu sect may not have the financial resources, right? If I lose, I have to borrow it, even if I have to. Jun Chang smiled and said, right, Master Ai. Ai Shang was startled and said hurriedly, if Master Jun needs help, My AI family is willing to lend 10 million teals. The bigwigs from all parties presents dead again. What kind of relationship does Tegu sect have with AI family that can make the head of AI family so willing to lend money and even lend 10 million teals? It must be said that AI Shangni came to support Jun Changxiao and he was absolutely crazy. Okay. Qin Horan said, the prize is 10 million teals. Swish. The disciples of Heoki sect dispersed again and surrounded half of the martial arts arena. Jun Changxiao said, Master Qin, please send someone to fight. Qin Horan waved his hand. The second disciple of the top grade spiritual root who reached the peak of martial arts came out. At this time, the strongest disciples of Heoki sect were only him and another first grade martial artist, so Qin Horan also gave them high hopes. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, as long as we win 2 more games, good luck and good luck, we will eat chicken tonight. After a pause, he said, King Guiyang, go on stage. Yes. Li King Guiyang stepped out. My son. Just after taking 2 steps out, the head of the Li family said solemnly, Dad is watching, and the ancestors of the Li family are watching. Li King Guiyang took a deep breath and said, Dad, I will let you see that the choice my son made in recruiting 100 sects is the most correct decision in his life. Looking at his son's iron-willed back, the head of the Li family couldn't help but burst into tears, and his voice trembled as he said, my son, Dad has seen it a long time ago. Dad is very proud of you as a disciple of the Iron Bone Sect. Tread. At this time, Li King Guiyang had stopped in the center of the martial arts field, with his back to his father, and said in a loud voice, Iron Bone Sect, Li King Guiyang. P.S. Thank you Z for your awards to Dangxin, Tinghe, Huanglang, Yua, Han, Xiai, only you, and please vote for recommendation. Chapter 155 Night Emperor, Cannon Fodder, Heoki Sect, Xinyang Guiyang. The disciple of Heoki sect who walked to the center of the martial arts arena announced his name. This person is the disciple second only to the first grade martial artist in the sect, and is stronger than Hu Zheng in overall strength. This one is not much stronger. After all, they are both top martial artists. As long as they do not step into the martial arts master, the difference between the two is no more than 2 or 3,000 pounds. Begin. The referee shouted. Xinyang Guiyang rushed forward for the glory of the sect master and the sect. The spiritual energy burst out in an all-round way, not only gathering in the whole body to protect several major acupuncture points, but also pouring into the palms. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, the palms launched an attack, and the spiritual energy whistled out, forming palm prints accompanied by a whistling sound. This is a tiger roaring dragon roaring palm. The unique palm method of Heoki sect that has reached the middle grade high level. This skill is divided into the tiger roaring palm and the dragon roaring palm, which can be separated and used separately, or the dragon and the tiger can be used together to form the momentum of the tiger roaring and the dragon roaring. Xinyang Guiyang has been practicing this palm method since he joined the sect. With the spiritual power of the peak martial artist, once it is used, the airwaves and air friction will produce the sound of tiger roar and dragon roar. Swish, swish. The palm prints like dragons on the left and tigers on the right swept over, like the long roar of dragons and tigers. It attracted praises from the bigwigs from all sides, and they all agreed that this boy's understanding of palm techniques has reached the realm of perfection, and he is worthy of being a genius with top grade spiritual roots. How should Li King Guiyang of the Iron Bone School respond? Swish. While everyone was thinking, Li King Guiyang stepped forward and condensed his explosive fist to blast over, obviously wanting to compete with the tiger roar and dragon roar palm in the most upright confrontation. Bang, bang, bang. The fists and palms of the two collided, and energy fluctuations filled the air, forming circles of ripples. In a few seconds, Li King Guiyang and Xinyang Guiyang exchanged more than 10 moves, and from the situation, it seemed that they were evenly matched. Right. This is a normal exchange. The previous 4 exchanges were not fierce at all, and it was a waste of us running all the way to watch the excitement. Bang, bang, bang. The two exchanged more than 10 moves, then separated tacitly, and kept a certain distance. Li King Guiyang looked calm. Xinyang Guiyang frowned slightly, loosened his palms, trying to relieve the numbness caused by the collision. The disciples of Heoki sect suffered a loss. Wan Donglin said. Qin Horan also noticed it, and his face darkened again. In this competition, is Heoki Sect going to lose again? Look, you have lost your confidence after being beaten, but you still have to continue fighting with a licking face, and you also agreed to a 10 million teal prize. Is there something wrong with your brain? It doesn't matter if you lose this game. Li Qingyang, the strongest of his Tegu sect, has already played. The disciples sent in the next 2 games are definitely not strong. As long as they win the 2 games, they can still win. Swish, swish. Li Qingyang and Jun Changxiao started fighting again. The two did not disappoint the warriors who were watching the excitement. They fought each other, and fought extremely fiercely. This is a normal style. Previously, they either kicked or smashed their anus, and it was like hitting a sandbag, with a one-sided trend. What fun was there in watching? Bang, bang, bang. The sound of explosions and the roar of tigers and dragons resounded in the martial arts arena. Li Qingyang and Jun Changxiao fought faster and faster, and the fight became more and more intense. Jun Changxiao folded his hands and murmured, Qingyang didn't choose a quick battle. He should want to use this top martial artist as a sparring partner. Bang. At this moment, the sound of explosions came. Li Qingyang's fist, which gathered more than 20,000 pounds of power, hit Jun Changxiao's palm, causing him to stagger back several steps. The disciple of Heoki Sect has lost the wind. He is really strong to compete with Jun Changxiao, who is performing the Tiger Roar and Dragon Roar palm. On Lingquan Mountain, it is not a fluke to defeat the inner disciples of Strongest Sect. Everyone praised Li Qingyang. Why? Because his moves are open and above board, and he fights very gracefully. Unlike the Tegu Sect disciples in the first 4 games, who either kicked him in the temple or used obscene moves like the Chrysanthemum Remnant. Hearing everyone talking about his son, the head of the Li family proudly puffed out his chest, his face full of pride. Jun Changxiao struggled to stabilize his body. His face looked a little ugly, and his right palm felt swollen and numb. It seemed that he was hit hard. Swish. Li Qingyang stepped forward, condensed his explosive fist and attacked again. This time, he did not give Jun Changxiao any chance to breathe, and bombarded him frequently, and finally bombarded him so hard that he could only block and retreat, and then was beaten out of the martial arts arena. Tegu Sect win another game. Counting the 4 games that were previously invalidated, that is 5-0. Jun Changxiao was not surprised that Li Qingyang won. Among the 7 inner disciples of the Tegu Sect, Suzuomo and Li Fei are proficient in body skills and foot strength. Ziozuji has tempered his body to the extreme, and Lu Qian has magnificent spiritual power. Although Li Qingyang does not have very dazzling strengths, he does not have very obvious weaknesses, and he is well-rounded and balanced. Moreover, he was the inner sect disciple with the highest cultivation level, having already broken through to the 7th rank martial apprentice. Hu Zheng, a top martial apprentice, was knocked unconscious by Ziozuji. It would be strange if the 2nd disciple could not defeat Jun Changxiao, who was also a top martial apprentice. Not to mention Jun Changxiao. Even the bigwigs watching the match were not surprised at all by Li Qingyang's victory, because his performance was too perfect and impeccable. In the first 4 games, Suzuomo and others won, and there was a feeling that the plot was reversed. Li Qingyang's victory was natural. Wan Donglin commented, this boy is not as bright as the previous disciples, but he is very stable. Oh. Jun Chang smiled and bowed. Alliance Master Qin, if my Tegu Sect wins again in the next game, your Heoki Sect will have to take out 10 million teals. Humph. Qin Horan said coldly, Master Jun, your Tegu Sect disciples are all elite. Can they still compete with my next disciples? All elite? Are you looking down on this emperor? Li Xingqian's face fell behind him, and he said in a deep voice, Master, I will fight in the next game. When he came to Heoki Sect, he wanted to fight, and even planned to challenge them one by one. Yeah. Jun Chang smiled. Go on stage. Crack, crack. Li Xingqian clenched his fists, shook his head, as if he was not afraid of breaking his neck, and walked out, his eyes flashing coldly. Qin Horan said calmly, Pei Jun, you go ahead, remember to win. Yes. The disciple named Pei Jun came out, with a strong spiritual power all over his body, obviously the strongest disciple of Heoki Sect. Alliance Master Qin finally sent out this martial arts master level disciple. That Tegu sect disciple is obviously a 5th or 6th grade martial artist. There is no hope of winning at all. In my opinion, Sect Master Jun's plan is to let the strong disciples take the lead, and then let such disciples be cannon fodder. Cannon fodder? Yi Xingchen was furious. If this emperor still had the cultivation of his previous life, I would definitely crush all of you lowlients to death in my palms, let your souls fly away, and never reincarnate. As expected of the Night Emperor, the idea is to creepy. Step. Pei Jun walked to the central area first and bowed, saying, "Hey Okiman, Pei Jun." Yi Xingchen said indifferently, "Stop talking nonsense, let's start." TSK, this cannon fodder is quite arrogant. Doesn't he know that Pei Jun is the strongest disciple of Heokiman? Using the weakest to consume the strongest, it's worth it even if you lose. Every word of the discussion was clearly heard by Yi Xingchen, and the anger in his body roared out, instantly filling his eyes, as if 2 flames rose. Pei Jun was secretly shocked and said, "This guy's eyes are so scary." Yi Xingchen turned his head to look at the referee and shouted angrily, "Hurry up and shout start. I can't wait. This little temper. Start." The referee shouted. As soon as the voice fell, Pei Jun rushed over, stretched his hands back, and gathered spiritual energy in his palms, and was about to swish. Yi Xingchen suddenly appeared on the left and said coldly, "Boy, you are too slow." Bang. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156 Arrogant and Domineering Yi Xingchen. Pei Jun not only has a top grade spiritual root, but is also a martial artist. This is like an insurmountable mountain for many martial artists, because there is a difference in realm. If it were Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others, they could fight at a higher level at the martial artist level, but facing Pei Jun, they would not be defeated, but it would be difficult to win. Martial artist, also known as the spirit control period. Martial artists at this level have very strong control over spiritual power. And if a martial artist wants to surpass the martial artist level, I'm afraid only Jun Changxiao can do it. Yes, he defeated Li Luoqiu, a 5th grade martial artist. But he also relied on the power enhancement talisman. Without this thing to bless him, he was captured and served with whips and candles. Is it really difficult for a martial artist to defeat a martial artist? For others, it is as difficult as ascending to heaven, but for Yi Xingchen, it is very easy. Bang. Just take a step around to the left. When Pei Jun started to rush over, condense the spiritual power into his fist, and hit the opponent's side waist cleanly. Fast, accurate, and ruthless. Wang Donglin exclaimed, "This kid is so fast. How could he not be fast?" It was only after Yi pondered that he remembered that he had practiced a body movement called crossing the dragon in his previous life. Why did he ponder? Because Yi Xingchen practiced too many martial arts in his previous life, and later he became a martial emperor. He must have focused on refining the holy and divine levels, and naturally ignored the lower martial arts. Crossing the dragon is not too good, but with Yi's current realm, he can just use it to practice again. As for the holy and divine martial arts, they must rely on the blessing of strong spiritual energy. At his current level, he can't use it at all. This incident tells us how powerful the Yi Jinjing and Ling Jian Shenju in the system are, because low-level warriors can completely ignore the realm to practice. Thump, thump, thump. Pei Jun, who was bombarded, stepped back several steps to the side, and felt numbness in his waist, which slightly hindered the use of spiritual energy in the meridians. Yi Xingchen hit the part close to Danshan. Although it was not as extreme as the temple and Beihu acupoint, as long as it was injured, the circulation of spiritual power would definitely be affected. A master is a master, as long as the opponent's realm is not too strong. With the experience of martial arts in the previous life and the upper grade spiritual roots, it would be easy to beat a first grade martial artist. Previously, I vowed not to let others fight, and I could solve it myself. It was definitely not a joke with my life. This emperor was once one of the 10 martial emperors. As long as the spiritual root cultivation is improved, who in this world can do anything to me? Rubbish. Yi Xingchen looked down on the world and said proudly, don't waste my time, attack quickly. Domineering. Pei Jun's eyes flashed with anger. Being despised by a martial artist like this, what dignity does a martial artist have? Swish. He rushed over with his body skills, and the tiger roaring dragon raw palm was immediately displayed. From the strength and speed, it was obviously stronger than Xin Yang Guiyang. When Li Qingyang faced this kind of move, he chose to resist it with force. Yi Xingchen's way was to move between his palms with mysterious body movements. After the spiritual roots were upgraded to the upper grade, the coordination between the soul and the body was higher. With his sharp eyes, as long as he caught the opponent's move, he could predict and move to avoid it. Wang Donglin widened his eyes. It was incredible that a martial artist could dodge so well. Pei Jun, who performed the tiger roaring dragon raw palm, was shocked. No matter how frequently he changed his moves, no matter how tricky the angle was, the opponent could dodge it with ease. After dozens of moves, he didn't even touch the corner of his clothes. Strike. A heavy blow. This disciple is amazing. From his body movements, he doesn't seem like a martial artist. No wonder he appeared so late. It turns out that the Iron Bone School has better disciples. The bigwigs from all sides were amazed. Gold always shines. Yi Xingchen, whose spiritual roots and realm were upgraded, proved with strength in a short fight that he was worthy of the Order of the Night Emperor in his previous life. This guy's really not simple. Jun Changxiao was also surprised. He let Yi Xingchen appear second to last because he might have cultivated a mental method above the divine level, but he didn't expect that he was so good in body movement and judgment. Swish. In the battle area, palm techniques were constantly performed, and the sounds of tiger roars and dragon roars continued. Pei Jun was getting more and more collapsed and powerless as he fought, because his opponent seemed to have seen through his every move and avoided it perfectly. Boy. Yi Xingchen avoided a move, stood beside him, and said lightly, are you desperate? Desperate. Bang. Yi gathered spiritual energy again and hit his side waist hard with an explosive fist, still in the old position. Thump, thump, thump. Pei Jun retreated several steps. His face was ferocious. Because of his injuries, it was difficult to gather spiritual energy in his meridians. Qin Horan was stunned on the spot. After a while, he lost his mind again with a ferocious look and roared, you can't lose this game, you must win for me. Just at this moment, Yi Xingchen appeared in front of Pei Jun. Bang, bang. The explosive fist was unleashed, and the power instantly exceeded 20,000 pounds, accurately hitting the same position on the opponent's chest. Because the punch was too fast, Pei Jun had no time to retreat. It was not until he was hit more than 10 times that he staggered back, and a mouthful of blood spurted out of his throat. It's over, many warriors speculated. However, Yi Xingchen did not give up. He followed with the dragon step and unleashed the explosive fist again. Bang, bang, bang. After another round of bombardment, Pei Jun finally fell to the ground while retreating. His face was extremely pale, and he was obviously seriously injured. Swish. Yi Xingchen stepped on his face with one foot, tilted his head to look at Qin Horan, and said coldly, win? He is not qualified. What is arrogance? In front of the master of the other party, stepping on the beloved disciple of the other party, this is called arrogance. First, Xiao Zuji broke the plaque, and then Yi Xingchen stepped on the face of the strongest disciple. The dignity of Heoki sect was completely lost today. Qin Horan clenched his fists, his eyes turned red, and he was obviously extremely angry. The disciples of Heoki sect also glared at him. TSK. Yi Xingchen kicked the seriously injured Pei Jun out of the martial arts field and said disdainfully, a bunch of garbage. So far, the Iron Bone Sect has won another victory. The score is 6-0. Even if the first 4 games don't count, Heoki sect still lost. Hey. Jun Changxiao spread his hands and said, Alliance Master Qin, I said before that there is no need to fight again. Now, not only have we lost 2 games, but we have also lost 10 million teals. Puff. Qin Horan spurted blood again. This time, the Iron Bone Sect came to fight, and his Heoki sect not only lost, but also lost its dignity. It was extremely tragic. When the warriors from all walks of life expressed their sympathy, they really looked at the Iron Bone Sect with new eyes. Wang Donglin stepped forward and said, "The Iron Bone Sect won 2 of the last 3 games. In my opinion, there is no need to fight anymore. Let's fulfill the bet and end it here." No, Jun Changxiao said, "Since it is the rule of the martial arts world, according to Alliance Master Qin, we have to finish all 7 games." As he said that, he waved his hand and said, "Qian Qian, go on stage." Lu Qian Qian said nothing and walked out. Qin Horan, who was furious, saw that the fighter was a woman, and said hatefully, "He Ren, go to the battle." Yes. The one who called He Ren walked out. He has a middle grade spiritual root, and his cultivation is only that of an 8th grade martial artist. There is no way the 9th grade martial artists and the upper grade spiritual root disciples of Heoki sect have all appeared, and they have all been completely defeated. In the last match, they sent a woman. Are they deliberately humiliating Heoki sect? The people of Heoki sect are angry. If this girl is not strong enough, she will definitely be beaten up. Everyone was obviously overthinking. Because when the referee just called out the duel, the competition was over. Puff, the small fist transformed by spiritual power, like a violent storm, destroyed He Ren's direct disciple to the ground and bleed wildly. 7 competitions. This one was the fastest. The eyes of the warriors from all walks of life almost popped out of their sockets. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, great victory, and obtaining 200 contribution points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, show your talent, and obtaining 300 contribution points. Ding. Sect contribution value 610/500. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, show your talent, triggering the hidden reward. The right to purchase the qualification transformation liquid has been transferred to the purchased goods column. Ding. The sect contribution value overflows. The host must consume within 24 hours. Otherwise the overflow contribution value will be automatically deducted. PS. Thanks to users 153 *********08. I ask you not to disturb me. Think of, I ask you not to disturb me, and simple for the rewards. Please recommend. Chapter 157 Divine Modification, Green Dragon Crescent Blade. When Lu Qian Qian won the last game in the fastest time, she triggered and completed 2 hidden tasks, beating Heokiman 7-0. This is called a great victory. The 7 disciples performed strongly, shocking everyone present. This is called the sect's first appearance. Hearing the beautiful prompt sound in his ears, Jun Changxiao raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. Especially when he heard that the second hidden task triggered a hidden reward. It was still the qualification transformation liquid. He smiled even happier. Pull open the purchased goods column and click on the detailed introduction. Sure enough, the newly appeared qualification transformation liquid is suitable for top grade spiritual roots, and after taking it, it can be upgraded to top grade spiritual roots. What made Jun Changxiao collapse was that the price was 300 contribution points. Oh my god. Are you kidding me? The system said, top grade and top grade are a watershed. It's normal to be a little more expensive. 50 points for medium grade, 300 points for top grade. God damn, it is more expensive. I originally planned to use the excess contribution points on the qualification transformation liquid, but after seeing the price, Jun Changxiao hurriedly gave up the idea. It's too expensive. I can't afford it. What's more, I'm a peak martial artist now. There are epic tasks to suppress my realm. Even if I buy it and take it, and upgrade to the best spiritual root, my level will not benefit. Good steel should be used on the blade. It's not too late to upgrade the spiritual root. After breaking through the martial artist, the system said with emotion, the host's brain circuit is really clear and not chaotic. Of course, Jun Changxiao didn't plan to buy expensive ones. He first bought 2 bottles of medium grade qualification transformation liquid to prepare for Suzuomo, Shinki and others. Ding. The host consumed 100 contribution points and obtained qualification transformation liquid X2, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 510/500. As a patient with obsessive compulsive disorder, Jun Changxiao would never tolerate 10 more contribution points. Swipe it. Swish. Pull down them all fiercely. Ding. Sect contribution value. 500 over 500. Well, this is neat and comfortable. Jun Changxiao didn't have time to look at the new products one by one, so he just glanced at them and found that the first row and the first box were actually a weapon named the magic modification, the Green Dragon Crescent Blade. Green Dragon Crescent Blade? Isn't this the weapon of Guanari? Jun Changxiao hurriedly clicked on the detailed introduction, which read, Item, Divine Modification, Green Dragon Crescent Blade. Introduction. The weapon used by the martial saint Guan Yu, weighing 82 kilograms, has killed many generals. Advantages. After being divinely modified, it is suitable for the high-level martial arts world. The blade is hard and powerful. Disadvantages. You must have taken the body shaping pill, otherwise it is difficult to use it freely, and the power depends on the level of realm. Special effect. Summon the soul of the martial saint, lasting 30 minutes. Cooldown for 24 hours. Price. 200 contribution points. Level. Unknown. Unknown. Jun Changxiao frowned and said, What do you mean? The system said, the power of the Green Dragon Crescent Blade depends on the level of the user, so it is impossible to give an accurate level evaluation. Does it mean a growth weapon? You can understand it that way. Jun Changxiao didn't think about it and clicked on the purchase. After opening them all, there is only the first great cold-edged sword. This time, the obsessive compulsive disorder brushed out the second one, and it was the weapon used by Guanari, which must not be missed. What's more, it's a magical modification with special effects, which looks awesome at first glance. Ding. The host consumes 200 contribution points and obtains a magical modification, Qinglang Yanyu Sword X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value. 300 over 500. 610 contribution points. 310 directly spent. Let Jun Changxiao suddenly realize that money can be willful. This is not the time to watch Qinglang Yanyu Sword. He bowed and smiled. Master Qin, the 7 fights are over, and I'm in a hurry to go home to eat chicken. Can I exchange the prize? Everyone's mouth twitched. 10 million teals, that's a big number. Even if Heoki Sect takes it out, it must have a loss. Qin Horan's anger can no longer be described in words. If eyes can kill, Arjun Dazhang must have died 10,000 times. Everyone. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said, It seems that Alliance leader Qin is not going to fulfill his promise. Is he still the leader of a sect or the leader of an alliance? Jun Changxiao. Qin Horan said with bloodshot eyes, Let's have a fight. With so many people watching, he must admit defeat. However, he was almost going crazy. He had to fight with Jun Changxiao to vent his anger and resentment. Ding. The side quest is triggered. Is there a quest coming? Jun Changxiao opened the data panel, and the side quest was, defeat the leader of Heoki Sect, Qin Horan 0 over 1, elite quest. Wang Donglin said, Alliance Master Qin, you, a martial master, are challenging a martial apprentice. It's a bit of a bully. When he abused Shen Tong on the life and death stage in Qingyang City, Alliance Master Qin was still a peak martial artist. Later, he had already broken through, before going to Linquan Mountain. Jun Changxiao peeked through his sunglasses, and learned that his strength was a first-grade martial master. It's not too strong, it's acceptable. Humph. Qin Horan said coldly, Elder Wang, Sect Master Jun came to challenge my Heoki Sect. What's wrong with Qin challenging him? There was nothing wrong with this, and Wang Donglin was silent. Ai Shangni said in a low voice, Sect Master Jun, you can refuse to fight. Yes. City Lord Z said, your Tegu Sect won Heoki Sect 7-0, which is a great victory. Even if you don't accept the battle, others won't say anything. The two advised kindly. After all, Wu Zhang is too strong, and it is impossible for a Wu disciple to win against him. Master, Yi Xingchen said, after returning to his position, just stop when you are ahead. Even the arrogant and domineering Lord Yidi said so, which shows that there is a huge gap between Wu disciples and Wu Zhang, and it is not just skills and experience that can determine the outcome. Master Jun, why don't you accept the challenge from Alliance Master Qin? Do you have the courage to let your disciples fight, but you don't have the courage to fight? Since you are here to discuss the Dao, there must be a battle between the masters. If you don't have the confidence to defeat Alliance Master Qin, in my opinion, just admit defeat. At this time, the bigwigs of all parties in the alliance began to show their presence. It seems that the slap in the face by the 7 disciples of the Tigu sect just now was not enough to make them feel good. The Heoki sect was beaten 0-7, which did make the bigwigs of the alliance swollen. But this time, they are willing to put their faces on the ground and let everyone step on them at will, and they don't think Jun Changxiao can defeat Wuzong's Qin Horan. Boy, don't be a coward. Go and face Alliance Master Qin head on. The leaders of various factions were eager for Jun Changxiao to accept the challenge, and then witness with their own eyes how he was abused by Alliance leader Qin. City Lord Z knew what these people were thinking, and hurriedly advised, Master Jun, don't be angered. Refuse the challenge, take back the prize, and return to the Iron Bone faction. This is the best policy. Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, Master Qin, we can fight, but I think we should use weapons to decide the winner. What do you think? City Lord Z was a little dizzy. If you want to fight, just accept the challenge and use weapons. Do you think you won't lose enough by then? Use weapons? Qin Horan was also stunned, and then sneered, Master Jun, swords have no eyes. I'm afraid that I will hurt you in the fight. It is normal for warriors to get injured and bleed when fighting each other. Jun Changxiao said. Okay. Qin Horan said, let's decide the winner with weapons. As he said that, he was about to step onto the martial arts field. Jun Changxiao stretched out his hand to stop him, and said with a smile, Alliance Master Qin, I'm afraid that there will be some accidents at that time, so please hand over the prize that the disciples have set for the competition first. Qin Horan's face suddenly became extremely ugly. 10 million taels, the blood of my heart. Forget it, forget it. Just think of it as spending this money to buy this kid. 2 hands. PS. Thank you Sisnti. 152 asterisk 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 20 Love War 9 Wars Eduo Wenxi, Dri, Coriander, and Anlizumi for your awards. I have built a sign-in and punch-in building in the book review area. Everyone can visit the building every day. The skirt is also announced. Those who like to chat and gossip can join, and they can also punch in, review chapters, and review books by the way. First, to improve their own contribution value, and second, to increase the activity of the book review area for the Strongest Sect. The contribution value can be exchanged for an ID red name and the like to show your personality. Ask for a recommendation ticket. Chapter 158 I'm proud. Outside the martial arts arena, everyone was staring at Qin Horan, because he was holding a thick stack of banknotes. Because there were so many, several disciples stood behind him to help him take them. 10 million taels. This is really a huge amount. Jun Changxiao said, Alliance Master Qin is a man of his word. I admire him very much, but, can you let go of your hand? Qin Horan handed the money over, but his hand was reluctant to let go, and he couldn't pull it away. Judging from the frequency of muscle trembling on his face, his heart must be broken. Heokiman didn't run many industries. It just relied on the status of the leader to make some extra money. He worked hard to save some money. No one could bear to take out so much at once. But money is important. Dignity is important. With Qin Horan's character, dignity is definitely important. After a fierce struggle in his heart, he still let go of his hand and gave Jun Changxiao a lot of banknotes. After giving it, he turned around and walked away, suppressing the pain, for fear that he would not be able to resist and snatch it again. Regret. If time could go back, and I could go back to before the disciples competed, even if I couldn't change the outcome, I would never add any bullshit to the prize. It was he who proposed to add the prize, and Jun Changxiao had never thought of it. This is digging a hole for yourself, and then jumping in happily, and you can't pull it back. Under the gaze of countless eyes, Jun Changxiao dipped his fingers in saliva, while counting the silver bills. After confirming that it was exactly 10 million taels, he smiled and put it into the space ring. Earn contribution points and make money. This trip to Heokiban can be said with dignity. This wave is really worth it. Leaking Gyang behind began to think that the head of the sect must have money to transform the sect and design a sketch in advance after returning. Look. Without the arrangement of the head of the sect, Jun Changxiao took the initiative to integrate into the role of the general manager of internal affairs. This awareness alone is worthy of praise. Qin Horan returned to the other side with a bleeding heart and released the anger in his body again, angrily saying, "Master Jun, can we fight?" The disciple lost, his dignity was gone, and he also lost 10 million. He was able to keep smiling. He was really a monster. Okay. Jun Chang smiled. Just as he was about to step out, City Lord Z advised, "Master Jun, please think twice." "Yes." AI Shang Ni said solemnly, "Master Qin is angry, and you are still fighting with weapons. This will definitely cause trouble." Jun Chang smiled and said, "I'm very grateful that you two care about me so much, but please rest assured that, since I accept the challenge, I'm sure. How can a martial arts apprentice fight a martial arts master? And it's a fight of weapons. As the leader of a faction, Qin Horan must have a medium grade weapon, not to mention that his level is too high. His cultivation is not good. His weapons are not good." City Lord Z and the head of the AI family can't see where the so-called confidence is. "Master Jun, are you scared? It's not too late to regret now. Alliance Master Qin has already fulfilled his promise. It would be a joke if he regrets it." The bigwigs of the alliance sneered. Master Jun ignored them, stepped out, and stood in the center of the martial arts arena. From the aura, Master Jun is at most a peak martial artist. He dares to fight with Master Qin, who is a martial arts master. He is really a hero. Master Qin lost so badly, he must have launched a battle of masters. Since he came to Heoki sect, he must be prepared. Swords have no eyes. I'm afraid there will be blood. The martial artists who were watching the excitement talked about it. In their hearts, they speculated that Heoki sect had lost face and money this time. If Qin Horan lost his mind, he might kill Jun Changxiao. He underestimated Master Qin too much. Although he was extremely angry, he would not die with the support of Strongest Sect and the AI family. At most, he would, well, cut off his 2 hands. Even if he could be reattached, it would definitely greatly affect his martial arts in the future. Killing is only the worst option. The best strategy is to make that kid unable to do anything in martial arts from now on. Step. Qin Horan also came over, opened his palms, the space rippled slightly, and a pair of iron maces appeared out of thin air. The color was light gold, and the word Fan was engraved under the handle. The weapons forged by Master Fan. Everyone exclaimed. The weapons forged by the top casting masters of Xingyu continent will inevitably attract cheers, as long as they are shown. Master Fan mainly forges swords, and has only forged maces once in his life. Could it be? A warrior exclaimed, "This is a top grade, initial stage soul stealing double mace." Everyone's eyes suddenly became hot and envious. It is worth bragging for a lifetime to have a mid-grade weapon forged by Master Fan. Alliance leader Qin has a top grade mace that he has only forged once in his life. Wang Donglin said, "This is a blunt weapon forged by Master Fan with 1000-year-old heavy iron. After being infused with spiritual power, it will form a shock force. If it is hit head on, the weapon will shatter at best, and the mind will be hurt at worst. Therefore, it is named the soul-stealing twin maces." It seems that he is talking to himself, but in fact he is talking to Jun Changxiao, so that he can have enough understanding of the weapon and make timely tactical adjustments. What's the point of adjusting? They have taken out top grade weapons. Sect leader Jun will definitely lose. It's possible that his soul will be damaged by the shock. City Lord Z and the AI family thought to themselves. Jun Changxiao thought to himself, "This life-stealing twin mace is much stronger than Wei Yinu's defective golden dragon sword." Sect leader Jun. Qin Horan said lightly, "Please show your weapon." Jun Changxiao took a deep breath, raised his right hand, and gently spread out his 5 fingers. But the space was slightly blurred, and a long weapon gradually emerged, until the 5 fingers grasped the handle, and it was completely clear. It was a big knife, 2 meters long, with the blade occupying a quarter and the rest being the handle. The knife was dark green, with a dragon beast opening at the handle head connecting to the blade, and lifelike blue dragons engraved on both sides of the blade. Under the sun, the blade flashed a sharp light, exuding a majestic momentum. This is the weapon used by the martial Saint Guan Yu, the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade. Good knife. Wang Donglin praised. When City Lord Xian Patriarch Ai saw the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade, they understood what sect leader Jun meant by sure. This knife must be extraordinary. The word Guan is engraved on the handle head. It seems that there is no casting master named Guan in Xinjiang continent. From the momentum of the weapon, it seems to be not weaker than the soul-stealing double mace of Alliance leader Qin. Everyone whispered. Sincerely envy the leader of an 8th-rate sect, who has such a sturdy weapon. When the green dragon crescent blade appeared, Jun Changxiao held it on the cold handle, and a feeling of missing family members during festivals, and the moon setting, and the sky full of frost instantly surged in his heart. Although he was not born in the Three Kingdoms era, and had never seen the righteous Guan Arai, he was a Chinese after all. Today, using his weapon in a foreign world, that was really, I'm proud. Come on. As if disturbed by the loyalty and righteousness in the weapon, Jun Changxiao said with great aura, you and I will fight for 300 rounds. Swish. He waved his right arm, and wanted to raise the knife. Because of the inertia of raising the knife, his body tilted forward a lot, but the green dragon crescent blade did not move at all, as heavy as Mount A. Strange. Did you use less strength? Didn't lift it up. Jun Changxiao tried a few more times, but his body followed him, and the knife seemed to be deeply sunken in the ground, and he couldn't lift it up, no matter how hard he tried. Wan Donglin. Ai Shangni. Tigu sect disciple. Quack. A crow flew across the sky, and the atmosphere instantly became extremely awkward. In front of everyone, he couldn't even lift his weapon. What a shameful thing. Jun Changxiao was roaring in his heart. What's going on? The system poured cold water and said, although the Qinglan Yanyu sword has no markings on the level of use, there should be strength requirements. The host can't meet the requirements, so it can't be used. Damn it. Huh. At this moment, Qin Horan came over with 2 maces in his hands. With the infusion of spiritual energy, a heavy airwave was instantly formed, causing Jun Changxiao's pupils to dilate. I'm fucking. Boom. PS. Please vote. Chapter 159 Haokiman is completely defeated. Boom. A heavy muffled sound came from the martial arts arena, and the dust on the ground was rolled up by the airwave, obstructing the vision. Terrible. It's worthy of being a weapon forged by Master Fan. The attack of Alliance Master Qin is so powerful and heavy. If it were a martial arts master of the same level, it would be difficult to resist without strong defensive equipment. If Sect Master Jun can't dodge, he will be in trouble. Although the vision was blocked by the dust, the warriors watching the battle just saw that when Alliance Master Qin attacked, Jun Changxiao was still trying to raise his sword. He couldn't lift the sword he summoned. Is he kidding with his life? Soon, the dust dissipated, and everything was visible. Jun Changxiao still stood there. His face was ferocious, but the big knife had been raised, and the handle of the knife took Qin Horan's soul-stealing double mace. Wan Donglin frowned and said, the double mace has a shock force. If you take it hard like this, Sect Master Jun's mind should be affected. Ziguancan and Ai Shangni immediately became worried. If the mind is frustrated, it will definitely affect the combat effectiveness. It was difficult for Master Jun to win, and this is undoubtedly worse. Humph. The leader of the longsword sect sneered. Although the boy sword is good, how can it be compared with the soul-stealing double mace of Master Qin? From his ferocious expression, his mind was obviously eroded during the collision just now, and his arms are probably numb at this moment. The Alliance boss guessed right. Jun Changxiao's arms are a little numb now, but it's not because of the bombardment, but the sword is too heavy. My lord Guan. Doesn't your weapon weigh 82 kilograms? Why do I feel like Monkey King's Ding Hei Shensen in my hand? The system said, after the magic modification, the Qinglan Yanyu sword has been out of the scope of normal weapons. Okay. Jun Changxiao gritted his teeth, put away the sword, and stepped back a few steps, keeping a certain distance from Qin Horan, and then gasped. Although the Qinglan Yanyu sword is heavy, it offsets the shock, after taking the bombardment of the soul-stealing double mace. So, after Jun Changxiao took the double mace, his ferocious expression was not because of his mental injury, but because he was too tired to lift the sword. So, how did he suddenly lift it? Because when he said rely, he crushed the force increasing talisman, and his strength instantly increased 5 times. As a peak martial artist, he had 5 times the strength blessing, and he barely controlled the Qinglang Yanyu sword, which shows that the weapon is really heavy. It is heavy, that has a majestic momentum, and can offset the shock of the soul-stealing double mace. If it was a first-grade cold front sword, not to mention whether it would be broken, people would definitely be shocked and turn around the martial arts field with crooked mouths and eyes. Master Jun is very tired. It seems that the weight of the sword is not light. The sword needs to be used freely. It's so difficult for him to lift it, and it's useless to summon it. While everyone was discussing, Qin Huarun was not forgiving and attacked again with the soul-stealing double mace. This time, he poured spiritual energy into it and swung it down, instantly drawing 2 golden rays. Golden glory, all methods. Whoosh. The soul-stealing double maces came crashing down. With the infusion of spiritual energy, the golden light dragged out was so brilliant that all the warriors watching the battle held their breath. All the martial arts were used. Alliance leader Qin, this is serious. Wang Donglin's face became solemn, and he said inwardly, with the combination of spiritual energy and weapons and martial arts, the power must reach at least 200,000 pounds. 200,000 pounds. For a martial artist who only had 10,000 or 20,000 bursts, it was totally unthinkable. Whoosh. The double maces carried golden light and blasted down, and the pressure of power once again rolled up a gust of wind, blowing a few strands of black hair on Jun Changxiao's forehead into a frenzy. Damn it. I'm going to fight you. Sect leader Jun held the knife with both hands, using all his strength, pouring spiritual energy into the knife, his muscles bursting with blue veins, and shouted angrily, the 3 heroes of Peach Garden. Wow, the green dragon crescent blade was thrown up, and although the speed was slightly slow, it still dragged out a crescent-like green knife shadow. Boom. The sound of metal and stone colliding was heard. Thump, thump, thump. Qin Huarun retreated with his 2 maces, his knuckles were numb from the shock, and a gap appeared at the place where the weapon was hit by the green blade light. How is it possible? This is a top-grade weapon forged by Master Fan, and it is a blunt weapon, much harder than a sword, but it was cut open by a single blow. The warriors from all walks of life were also dumbfounded. Swish. At this moment, Jun Changxiao rushed over with the ghost step, with veins protruding on his neck and forehead, and shouted, "Warm wine to kill who is Iron." Who? The Qinglang Yanyu sword came down again. Relying on the ghost step's fast approach and inertia, the sword's speed was much faster than before. Boom. The sound of metal and stone colliding rang out. Qin Huarun resisted with his weapon, and his body was shocked back again, and a knife mark appeared on the other soul-grabbing mace. I'm in KO's camp, but my heart is with Han. Boom. Or 1,000-mile journey alone. Boom. Go to the meeting alone. Boom. Everyone's face was dazed. They had never heard of such a strange name for a sword technique. This was not a sword technique. It was the deeds of Guan Yu in the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms. After 3 consecutive slashes, Jun Changxiao dragged the ghost and went around to the left side of Qin Huarun, who was constantly retreating. He flew into the air, raised his sword, and slashed it down fiercely, shouting, "Loyal and courageous Guan Yu." Bang. Crack. Crack. After enduring the 5th slash, Qin Huarun's soul-stealing maces were directly cut off. Hiss. Seeing this, everyone gasped. The top-grade weapon forged by Master Fan. With the blessing of the spiritual power of martial arts master, it was cut off like chopsticks in just 5 slashes. This was extremely terrifying. Swish. Although the soul-stealing maces were broken, the Qinglang Yanyu sword continued to slash down with undiminished power. Not good. Qin Huarun was horrified and pale. He didn't care about his weapons and demeanor, and hurriedly used his body skills to escape. Although he moved quickly, he still couldn't escape the blade that came first. With a puff, a deep knife mark was cut on his back, and blood spurted out. The majestic momentum of the explosion shocked Qin Huarun, and made him rush forward. Finally, he retreated from the martial arts arena, and fell to the ground with his face on the ground. This was because he ran fast. Otherwise, if he was hit by the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade head on, his body would definitely be split in two. Ding dang. The two pieces of the iron mace fell to the ground. Swish. Jun Changxiao held the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade in front of him, and the ground was dented. With his other hand, he stroked the 5 long beards that he pretended to have at his chin, and said arrogantly, "Thank you." The entire martial arts arena was silent. Not only was Qin the leader defeated, his weapon was also cut off, and his back was also cut. This was simply too scary. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the side quest and obtaining 200 points of sect contribution value. Ding. Sect contribution value. 500 over 500. Swish. Jun Changxiao put the King Lang Yan Yu sword into the space ring, clasped his fists and said, "Alliance Master Qin, I have benefited a lot from coming to your sect today to discuss and exchange ideas. I will not disturb you anymore and will take my leave first." The disciples won all, and he won too. He had prestige, banknotes, and contribution points. There was no point in being here, so he took his disciples away in a casual manner. Ziguancan, Ai Shangni and others followed him. They were worried that Heokiman would not be able to swallow the bad breath and would block the gate to prevent them from leaving. Seeing Jun Changxiao and his disciples gradually going away in their sight, the expressions on the faces of the alliance bosses and warriors from all sides were stiff, and a sense of unreality arose in their hearts, as if in a dream. Heokiman was defeated today, and it was completely defeated. They don't even need to think about it. When the news spreads in Qingyang County, it will definitely cause an uproar. By then, the name of the Iron Bone Sect will surely resound throughout the 8 cities. Alas. The bigwigs of the alliance sighed in frustration. Qin Horan, who used his psychic energy to seal the wound and stop the blood from flowing, clenched his fists tightly and roared unwillingly, "Jun Changxiao, my Heoki sect and your Iron Bone Sect are irreconcilable. P.S. Thank Gang Gang, Wangu Bumi, Manshan Fei Wudi Zu, boiled water, I'm not a lemon, why am I sad, and see Shu Liu 9 for the rewards. Please vote for recommendation." Chapter 160 targeted. All 7 disciples were defeated, the plaque of the main hall was smashed, and 10 million taels were paid. The master's weapon was cut off, and people were also chopped. All of the above is enough to show that Heoki sect was completely defeated today. Not only did they lose people and money, but they also lost the dignity of a 6th-rate sect. Jun Changxiao, my Heoki sect and your Tigu sect are irreconcilable. Qin Horan injured the pain brought by his back injury, and his eyeballs were full of creepy bloodshot. He lost the competition and lost face. However, all the warriors were still watching, and he had to say the harsh words, because this is the rule of the martial arts world. If there weren't so many people, Alliance leader Qin might have lay on the ground, with his forehead on his arms, crying like a child. Damn it. It hurts my self-esteem, and I'm too unwilling. There is no way. It was Jun Changxiao who came to mess up the scene, not him, and he couldn't hide. It can only be said that this is his own fault. Linquan sect hired robbers and assassins, and was killed by Jun Changxiao because of the fault. How could he pretend not to know, and not show up? He had to lick Shenquan sect, and bring the alliance members to the Xingyu Tower for trial. Qin Horan, a 5th-rate sect, had nothing wrong with licking, but he fanned the flames in front of the 3 elders of Shenquan sect. Jun Changxiao must strike down such people, because leaving them alone will only make them worse. Sect Master Jun did not play tricks, but brought his disciples to challenge you, defeated you in public, and trampled on your dignity. Who can find fault with it? My friend, there is nothing wrong with it. At the foot of Heokiman Mountain, Jun Changxiao, who had just walked down, felt his whole body soften, and he staggered and collapsed. Xiao Zuji was quick to support him and said worriedly, "Master, are you okay?" "No, I'm fine." Jun Changxiao's face turned pale, and he said weakly, "Let's go back to the sect." Wan Donglin, who was following behind, said, "Master Jun's sword should be of high quality." With the cultivation of martial artist, his body did not break, but he was exhausted. It's a blessing. Jun Changxiao was silent. Although he was able to lift the King Lang Yan Yu sword with the blessing of the force increasing talisman, He swung 5 swords in a row, which exhausted all the spiritual energy and physical strength in the cyclone, and he was exhausted. Walking down from the Heoki gate, he was also holding on with his iron bones. Jun Changxiao took a breath and thought to himself, fortunately, Kinhoran was cut out of the martial arts arena, otherwise I would be the one in trouble. Relying on the Qinglang Yanyu sword bought with 200 contribution points, and the force enhancing talisman, he barely defeated the first grade martial arts master. It can be seen that it is too difficult to jump to levels. More than difficult. It is as difficult as ascending to heaven. If Kinhoran didn't care about the gap in his weapon, being cut by the sword, and took the initiative to attack, Jun Changxiao would definitely be in trouble, because the sword was too heavy, and would have a great impact. In short, in this battle, Master Jun won by luck. After returning to the sect, you must let the disciples improve their cultivation, as soon as possible, and then do epic tasks, to raise their own levels. Jun Changxiao said secretly. The system said, based on the host's strength at the time, at least 150,000 pounds are needed to barely use it. 150,000 pounds is barely enough. Jun Changxiao said speechlessly, this divinely modified Qinglang Yanyu sword is really terrifying. Ding. The host consumes 20 contribution points, and obtains the first grade strength increasing talisman X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value. 480 over 500. The Qinglang Yanyu sword requires sufficient strength. As long as the strength talisman has no time to cool down, it must be purchased as soon as possible to prepare for the unexpected. The sword is really sturdy, and I don't know the special effects. How strong will the martial arts soul be if it is activated? Jun Changxiao said secretly. The system said, the host can't use the Qinglang Yanyu sword normally now, so don't consider turning on the special effects for the time being. That's right, that's right. If the special effects are too strong, and your strength can't keep up, and your body bursts, then it's a joke. Master Jun. When they reached the crossroads, the head of the AI family bowed and said, AI is going back to Huang City, and I'm leaving here. Farewell. Jun Changxiao had no strength, and just said weakly, AI Shangni took Wang Donglin away, and on the way he secretly said, the disciples of the Tigu sect are so strong, they must have taken the body shaping pill. We must raise the starting price when we go back. He believed that Li Qingyang and others took the body shaping pill, so they were able to fight above their level, so he was ready to do something big. Ziguancan, Li Jiazu and others went all the way with Jun Changxiao. Because it was far from Qingyang City and they took a mountain path, they found a clean cave to rest after dark. Jun Changxiao sat down cross-legged, practiced the Yijinjing, and began to replenish the consumed spiritual energy. Xiao Zuji was lying on a tree outside the cave with a 88 type sniper rifle, and occasionally leaned on the 8-fold mirror, to observe everything around him. 10 members of Xiaotang were scattered in the dark, and even a mouse could be caught, if it slipped past. Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomo guarded the cave entrance. Xian Qi and Li Fei surrounded the head of the sect to provide absolute protection. Seeing that they were facing a formidable enemy, Ziguancan sat in front of the fire, and said with a smile, Kinhoran is a well-known figure after all. He will not use despicable means to attack us by surprise. Jun Changxiao's cyclone had restored a lot of spiritual energy and physical strength. He opened his eyes and said, City Lord Z, it's better to be vigilant when you go out. He was not worried about Kinhoran, but about the other big guys in the 100 Sects Alliance and the 2 possible assassins going to challenge the Heoki sect. The whole Qingyang County was spread. Those who had bad intentions towards him must have received the news or arranged an assassination plan long ago. Bang! Suddenly, gunshots were heard outside the cave. City Lord Z and the head of the Li family, who were sitting in front of the fire, were startled by the huge bang. Jun Changxiao said, go out and take a look. Yes. Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomo left the cave, and City Lord Z hurriedly followed. Xian Qi and Li Fei approached the head of the sect, worried that something unexpected would happen. Lu Qian Qian stuck to the stone wall behind Jun Changxiao. Her jade hand was already on the scabbard, and her bright eyes flashed a hint of coldness. Zhao Hang stood up, holding the sword, walked out of the cave, and stood at the door. The calmest person was Yi Xingchen, who seemed to be lying in the haystack, as if nothing had happened. The originally peaceful cave suddenly became serious as the Type 88 sniper rifle sounded, which also made the Li family head and others look solemn. Swish. Not long after, Li Qingyang and Suzaomo returned, threw a corpse in nightclothes on the ground, and said, "Master, there is only one person. Search." Yes. Suzaomo searched the body and said, "Master, there is nothing on him." Nothing? Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "Could he be in the same group with the group of killers outside Liang City?" In the dark of the forest, several men in black walked at high speed and gathered together carefully. "Brother, the third brother was killed." A man in black said hoarsely. "The Tegu sect is very cautious. We can't act rashly, otherwise we will die under the Shenwei fire gun." The man in black called the boss whispered. "So many brothers went to Tegu sect, but none of them came back. They must have died from this hidden weapon." Someone said angrily, "Brother, what should we do now? Retreat first and think of another plan." "Yes." Swish. The 5 men in black left under the cover of night and the complex terrain. Judging from their actions, these people were obviously professionally trained killers. However, brothers would never have dreamed that no matter how they lurked or retreated, they had been targeted by the members of Xiaotang in the dark. Are you professionals? Sorry, compared with the gold medal killer of Xiaolao, you are still much weaker. PS. Thank you for the reward from Tangli, 176 ***********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************32. Oyu Menglei, please vote for recommendation. Chapter 161, A dark and windy night, a day of murder and arson. Xiao Zuji shot and killed a killer, and the people of Xiaotang caught him in advance and successfully followed the other 5 killers. We are professional killers, okay? Let you rookies slip away under our noses. How can we face the head and the head of the hall? The next day, Jun Changxiao's spiritual energy and physical strength recovered well. He got up early and stood outside the cave, breathing fresh air and doing stretching exercises. There is no pollution, but there is spiritual power. He sighed. People who live here, even ordinary people, have a lifespan of about 200 to 300 years. Humans in the high-level martial arts world will have their lifespans increased after opening their meridians and condensing spiritual power. Headmaster Jun is committed to completing the main task, and he doesn't want to die young. After all, here is 100 years old, and the earth is barely 30 years old. Swish. Li Qingyang walked out of the forest, took out the mark left by the Xiaotang members before tracking, and said, "Master, they have already targeted someone." Jun Changxiao said lightly, "I want to see how you can hide and seek. Return to the sect." Yes. After a night of rest, everyone continued on their way. When they arrived at a certain intersection in the territory of Qingyang City, City Lord Zi took the Li family's master to say goodbye and leave. Jun Changxiao was very grateful that they came to support the scene and generously gave each of them a body-shaping pill before leaving. Can it improve the strength of the physical body? Could it be that the body-shaping pill sold by the head of the AI family? My god, how close is the relationship between Master Jun and the AI family so that he would get the pills that have not yet started the auction? The heads of the families on the way back to the city were shocked. Everyone. Zi Guangkan stopped and said in a deep voice, "Please keep the matter of Jun the sect leader giving you the elixir to yourself." All the family heads were veterans, and they never understood what he meant. They hurriedly expressed their opinions seriously. "Don't worry, Lord City Lord, you know this matter, I know it, and the heaven and the earth know it. Sect leader, senior brother and the others are back." The quiet Tegu sect was instantly broken by Simazanda's shout. When Jun Changxiao led 8 people through the sect protection formation and walked into the sect, the disciples stopped practicing and surrounded him to ask about the battle situation. Beat them 7-0? My god, this is too awesome. The sect leader is mighty, senior brother is mighty. In the martial arts arena, the disciples of the Tegu sect shouted excitedly. Toot. Jun Changxiao said happily, "Cook dozens of tables of dishes in the evening. Prepare fine wine, and celebrate. There is prestige, money, and contribution points. This trip to Heokiban has been a great harvest. How can I not drink with the disciples? Yes. Liu Wanshi didn't care about practicing and took Ma Yangning and Yehui and Ahui to prepare ingredients in the cafeteria for the evening banquet. In the study room, Jun Changxiao had just sat down and hadn't had time to drink a sip of tea. Li Luoqiu, who was wearing a sexy school uniform, walked in and said with a smile, "Master, you are so amazing." She received intelligence early in the morning and learned that the disciple had won all 7 battles, and the master chopped Qin Horan to the ground with a knife. At that time, Li Luoqiu's first reaction was a bit confused. Although she didn't want Jun Changxiao to fail in the mess, the 6th-rate sect was not easy to mess with. Since he went, he would have to lose 2 or 3 games. The result? It was a 7-2-0 score. If it weren't for his absolute trust in his subordinates, Master Li would even suspect that the intelligence was wrong. Jun Changxiao drank a sip of tea, put down the cup, crossed his legs and said, "Mighty Gu sect will eventually become the strongest sect. This is just normal operation." It was natural and impeccable. Li Luoqiu sat down and said with a smile, "It seems that my joining the sect leader is a very wise choice." From sect leader Jun's perspective, the woman happened to be looking at Cheng Feng from the side, so she quickly looked away and said, "Is there any movement from the Zhao family?" Yes. When it came to business, the charm on Li Luoqiu's face was replaced by seriousness, and she said, "On the day the sect leader went to Heokiban, the eldest elder of the Zhao family disappeared." Disappeared? Jun Changxiao was stunned. Li Luoqiu said, "The eldest elder of the Zhao family has a habit of going to Qingaiju to drink tea every morning, but he never came out after he went on that day." Jun Changxiao held his chin and said, "Have you investigated Qingaiju?" "Investigated?" Li Luoqiu said, "It is an industry of the Zhao family. It is difficult for warriors without identity to enter." Jun Changxiao said, "What do you think? I have been sending people to investigate the base where the Zhao family trains killers recently, but there is still no news." Li Luoqiu paused and said, "This Qingaiju may be a base in secret." Jun Changxiao agreed, "It is possible." Li Luoqiu said, "I have been sending people to keep an eye on it. What does the master plan to do?" "Wait. Wait for what?" "Wait for news from Little B and others." Little B was the leader of the 10 gold medal killers last night. He was once the 4 ace killers of Xiao Tower, second only to the Scorpion and the Mountain Cat. After Jun Changxiao learned the nickname, he shouted to him, "Two little bees, flying in the flowers." Li Luoqiu said, "It seems that the master has been targeted by the killer during this trip." Jun Changxiao took a sip of tea and said hatefully, "Don't let me find out who it is, or I will kill him." Being targeted by killers all the time is unbearable, no matter how good your temper is. As long as the little bees can find the melon, they will definitely chop it off and taste it to see if it is sweet. Night fell. The canteen was brightly lit. Every table was filled with wine and food. Jun Changxiao raised his bowl and said, "Cheers to this triumphant return. Master is mighty." All the disciples raised their bowls and drank. Old Wen also came. He sat alone in a corner, sipping his wine, looking at this group of young people, his cloudy eyes filled with memories. "Weizi, I want to establish a sect. Will you join me?" "Ha ha ha, we finally found a mountain. Let's open a sect here." "Weizi, from today on, I'm the head, and you're the deputy head. Let's work together to do something big." The long-sealed memories appeared in his sea of consciousness, making old Wei seem to have returned to the same age as these children. Time is like a flying knife, and every time it cuts you, it makes you old. Grandpa Wei. Liu Wanshi sat opposite him without knowing when, holding her chin with both hands, blinking her eyes and saying, "Why are you crying?" Old Wei smiled and said, "It's a little spicy." Liu Wanshi pouted and said, "Grandpa Wei, the food you eat is specially made by Dudu, and there is no chili at all." Old Wei raised his bowl and said, "It's the wine that's spicy. The wine is spicy." Liu Wanshi frowned and advised, "Grandpa Wei, you should drink less wine when you are old. If you die." Puff. Old Wei spurted out the wine and almost died. Children say nothing. Children say nothing. The disciples of the Tegu school usually practice very hard, but today they indulged themselves for once and had a drinking contest with their fellow disciples in the cafeteria. Jun Changxiao held a bowl of wine, stepped on the stool, and watched them having fun. Master Li Luoqiu came over and whispered, "Little B has some news." So soon. Jun Changxiao used his spiritual power to dispel his drunkenness, and then went to the study. Li Luoqiu reported the news. The 5 assassins that Little B and his men were watching in the wild entered Liang City, and then dressed up as servants and entered Qinghaju. Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together, rested his chin on them, and sneered. So, Qinghaju is the base of the Xiao family assassins, and they were the ones who attacked outside Liang City? Damn it. They are really playing psychological warfare with me. If it weren't for the surrender of Xiao Tower, I would have been stalked by a group of libs all day long, and I'm afraid I wouldn't know their location until I die. Master Li, listen to my orders. Swish. Li Luoqiu took 2 steps back and waited for orders. Jun Changxiao said with a cold look, "Tomorrow night, Qinghaju will be wiped out, leaving no one alive." "I understand. Let Zuji go with you." "This," Li Luoqiu said, "after all, he is from the Xiao family. It is a bit inappropriate to let him go." Jun Changxiao said, "Do you think the Xiao family assassins want to assassinate me?" Li Luoqiu was silent for a while and said, "I understand. The Xiao family is targeting Xiao Zuji. How much hatred and resentment is there, and they will not let go even after the clan members are expelled?" Crack. Jun Changxiao clenched his 5 fingers, and the teacup shattered, saying, "If you dare to touch my Tegu sect disciples, let alone Qinghaju, even the old man of the Xiao family will dare to destroy it." The chill was pressing, and the murderous aura leaked out. In Liang City, night fell. The waiter in Qinghaju was busy closing the shop, but just as he was about to close the door, a graceful woman blocked the door with her jade hand and smiled. "Brother, is this Qinghaju? This woman is beautiful and has a hot body. Any man who sees her will not be able to help but take a second look." But the waiter was slightly stunned and said in a cold tone, "Sorry, we are closed. Don't you have business?" The woman smiled. The waiter said, "My shop is closed at a certain time. Miss, you want to drink tea? Come back tomorrow." The woman did not leave. She blinked and smiled. "Brother, the business I'm talking about is not drinking tea, but taking lives." "Taking lives?" The waiter's eyes turned cold. Puchy, a flash of cold light mercilessly cut his neck. Li Luoqiu, holding the willow leaf flying knife, walked into the store heroically. Dozens of his men followed in the dark, disposed of the body, and then closed the door of Qinghaju. It was a dark and windy night, a day for murder and arson. Chapter 162. This world is more exciting with your company. Remarks on the release. The text has nothing to do with the plot. Study, bathroom. Master, this is bad. Li Qingyang pushed the door open breathlessly and said, "The strongest sect of the ages will be released tomorrow at 12:30. Jun Changxiao, who was wearing a facial mask and taking a bubble bath, opened his eyes slightly and said, "It's no big deal." Li Qingyang collapsed and said, "Putting it on the shelves means spending money, and there will definitely be a lot of readers who will leave." Jun Changxiao fiddled with the facial mask and said, "Treat it with a normal mind." "That," Li Qingyang said weakly. "Master, can you put the knife down first?" Swish. Jun Changxiao got up from the bathtub, pointed the knife at you on the screen, and roared, "You're going to leave, believe it or not. I'll kill you now." "Master, calm down. Master, calm down." Li Qingyang hurriedly dissuaded him, using a bath towel to cover the indescribable parts, to avoid them appearing in the camera. Jun Changxiao threw away the sword. That was difficult to put away, put on the headmaster's school uniform, tied up his black hair, and said, "It will be put on the shelves tomorrow, and the disciples will be called together. First, I want to thank the readers who continue to support the Iron Bone School, and second, I want to bid farewell to the readers who are about to abandon the book." Yes. The cafeteria hall. It was hung with ribbons and balloons, and the dining tables were put together to leave enough space in the front, making it look like a party. The first to enter was the female representative. Li Luoqiu walked into the cafeteria, took out the Desert Eagle from his waist, pretended to fire a shot at the camera, and smiled sweetly. Is it accurate? Luke Kian walked in. She didn't look at the camera, and still had an icy face that never melted. Ling Yuangsu came over with her little head shrunk, trying hard to look at the camera, her eyes dodging as she said, can you stay? Liu Wan. She jumped into the camera, made a face, and said with a giggle, big brother, big sister, I'll provide meals for those who stay, and I've prepared a farewell meal for those who want to leave. One hand pushed her out of the camera, and Jun Changxiao adjusted his collar, and leaned his whole face against the camera. The song of Erquan Yingyu sounded. Sect leader Jun brewed his emotions for a while, and with tears in his eyes, he said to you outside the camera, the strongest sect in eternal ages will be on the shelves at 12:30 tomorrow. If you don't support it, the author will not be able to make me more handsome. Will you do me the honor of subscribing and following? When he got excited, he suddenly shook the camera with a ferocious look and said, follow it, follow it. The sect leader is crazy, take him away quickly. No, I'm not crazy. I'm very sober. Feed the sect leader some medicine. I'm not crazy, I don't want to take medicine. Jun Changxiao was dragged away by Li Qingyang and Zhao Zuji, still staring with big eyes, roaring at you outside the screen. They are crazy. Someone wants to harm me. Protect me quickly. Sorry. Suzaomo appeared in the camera and said with a cupped hand, the sect leader did not take the medicine on time and scared everyone. Swish. A golden right foot blocked the camera, and Li Fei said, if you want to leave, I don't mind. Shanqi pushed him away and said, go and feed the master medicine. Outside the camera, the roar of Master Jun was still heard. I'm not crazy, I don't want to take medicine. Yi Xingchen walked in, stopped in front of the camera sideways, raised his hand, and pointed at you, and said coldly, you vulgar mortal, stay. After tying up the master, Zhao Zuji came to the camera and said seriously, whether a book is worth spending money, it doesn't matter what the author says, nor what the master says. Only you have the final say. That's right. Li Qingyang smiled and said, the story has just begun. We don't want everyone to leave. Zhao Hang appeared in front of the camera with one hand clasped on the sword. Don't let him draw the sword. Jun Changxiao said in surprise, otherwise, the alien live broadcast camera I bought with great effort will be cut off. Long Xiang and Li Yuhe hurriedly pulled the sword cultivating genius away. New disciples such as Li Shangshan, Simazanda, and even the sect's royal herbalist Wenileo walked into the cafeteria, which accommodated more than 200 disciples with dreams. Jun Changxiao, who had taken the medicine, was untied and said, it has been 2 months since the release of the Eternal Strongest Sect. Thank you for your company during the summer vacation. Thank you for your recommendation votes, and thank you for your support. For the readers who abandoned the book, we had this farewell meal together. Swish, swish. The table was filled with delicacies, and the disciples ate happily. For the readers who stayed, let's drink this bowl of 1982 Sprite together. Gulp, gulp. After the meal, Jun Changxiao led the disciples to the martial arts arena, and then gave them the camera one by one. Except for a few who took the high cold route, most of them smiled and waved at you who were holding the camera. Take a group photo. The disciples lined up together, forming the lower and upper rows. Jun Changxiao sat on the 1,000-year-old Nanmu chair in the middle, pointed at the camera and said, this world is only wonderful with you by my side. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Snap. A family photo of the early stage of the Iron Bone School disciples appeared. When you are unhappy, think about the previous happy plot. The camera went up, and the magnificent hall gradually showed the 4 golden characters Iron Bone Zheng. Then it turned to the gate. The plaque hanging above read Gay, Iron Bone Zheng School. Suddenly, on the martial arts field, a man in a cloak came with a shovel. He gently raised his head, tilted his head, pointed his index finger at the camera, and said in a cold tone, brother, are you leaving? Jun Changxiao almost fell off the chair, and said in surprise, Wang, Master Wang, I would like to use this chapter to thank the readers who supported this book, and had to leave, because of their financial ability, and also thank the readers who voted, rewarded, and continued to support. The strongest sect in the world is more exciting with you. P.S. Let me talk about the chapter price. The bookstore has a unified price of 200 words/1 cent, 2000 words/1 cent. Sometimes the chapters are 2200 or 2400 words, so it will cost 1 or 2 cents more. VIP members of the bookstore will also get discounts, and there will be additional coins for signing in and reading time. It will be on the shelves at 12:30 tomorrow morning, and I hope readers can support it by subscribing. On the last day of the shelf, please recommend and vote for me. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Clean and Neat. Zyouzuji came for this operation, but he did not enter Kingaiju. He stood on the tree branch with a heavy heart, holding a Type 88 sniper rifle. Opposite is the family business. When he was still in his glory, he often came here to drink tea after practicing and was surrounded by a group of flattering cousins. However, who would have thought that it would be a killer base? Who would have thought that one of the several batches of killers that appeared in succession would be a member of the Zyou family? Zyouzuji, who had just established confidence in the Tigu sect and was full of hope for the future, was hit hard again in his heart. You expelled me. Why do you want to kill me? Why? This is why. Zyouzuji held the cold Type 88 sniper rifle tightly in his left hand, and the sadness and anger filled his heart. Jun Changxiao also came. He sat on the branch next to him and saw that his disciple's arm was shaking. He said, Zuji, from the day you were expelled, you were destined to be garbage in the eyes of the Zyou family for the rest of your life. Master, why? Zyouzuji's voice was hoarse, and he was obviously struggling to control his emotions. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, because they can't accept that a piece of trash who was expelled will rise again one day, which will make them feel that their previous behavior was extremely stupid. In order to stop being stupid, the only way to continue being stupid in dreams is to erase you. Jun Changxiao's analysis was very accurate. After Zyouzuji won the championship of the sect competition, the Zyou family could not accept and could not allow the expelled trash to become powerful again. Since he has been labeled as trash, he must either remain as trash like an ant or die. Zuji, Jun Changxiao said with a smile, you must learn to accept reality and make yourself stronger in the face of setbacks. Zyouzuji took a deep breath and his mood gradually calmed down. Remember this too. Jun Changxiao said in a deep voice, real relatives are not so-called blood relatives, but those who are good to you and care about you. Those who want to harm you can only be enemies. He would not let his disciples be cold-blooded killers, nor would he instill the idea of the saint who wants to kill you and needs to be persuaded. What's more, the Zyou family doesn't care about blood ties, and they want to kill Zyouzuji, and they still want to persuade him with love. That's a fucking idiot. Of course. It's not impossible to persuade him, but you can't use love, you have to use fists. If they are persuaded comfortably and cry for their parents, there's nothing wrong with that. Zyouzuji said with a cold look, Master, I understand. They expelled me and wanted to take my life. Even if we have the same blood, we are just enemies, not relatives. Kingaiju. After Liluoqiu brought people in, a killer pretending to be a servant walked in from the inner courtyard and said, Jiuzi, close the door. Swish. VIP appeared behind him, covering his mouth with one hand, and the dagger cut his neck cleanly. Liluoqiu waved his hand, and Shan Mao and other members sneaked into the inner courtyard, and then blocked all possible escape positions. The owner of Xiao Tower brought people in person, absolutely super professional. Master, VIP said in a low voice, there's nothing special about the inner courtyard. Liluoqiu sat at the table, took a sip of tea and said, there should be a secret room. Search it carefully for me. Yes. VIP led his men to explore quietly in the dark. There is a secret room under Kingaiju, which is very spacious. There is a hall, a training room, and many weapons, and hidden weapons hanging on the walls. It can be said to be quite professional. Brother, the Shenwei fire gun of the Tigu school is too powerful. If we are discovered, it will be difficult to escape. A bearded man sitting in the meeting room said. He was one of the 5 killers who were targeted by the little bees in the wild before, and he was also one of the leaders of the King Gaiju stronghold. The one who called him brother was a thin middle-aged man with triangular eyes and a mustache. He was wearing a butler's uniform, and his eyes flashed coldly. At first glance, he was not a good person. If Zio Zuji was here, he would definitely recognize that this was Zio Shanhei, the Zio family's foreign affairs butler, and the right-hand man of the Great Elder. He was secretly responsible for training the assassins in the stronghold, and he was also responsible for assigning assassination missions. I didn't expect that an 8th-rate sect could severely damage Heoki sect. This is really unbelievable. Zio Shanhei stroked his mustache and said, yes. The bearded man said, everyone thought that the Tigu sect would be beaten up when they went to Heoki sect, but in the end, they beat Heoki sect 7-0, and Alliance leader Kin was also chopped. At this moment, he was secretly glad that he retreated in time the night before. Otherwise, if he was discovered by the Tigu sect, it would be more than just one assassin who died. The Great Elder has ordered. Zio Shanhei said in a deep voice, the Tigu sect is a bit tricky, all assassination plans are cancelled, and no one is allowed to go out. Understood. The bearded man said. Zio Shanhei placed his fingers on the table, and tapped them regularly, saying, in fact, I think we don't need to do it ourselves. We can just ask Ziao to assassinate that rubbish. Brother, Lingquan Mountain has invited Ziao assassins before, but they still couldn't do anything to Tigu sect. The bearded man said. Humph. Zio Shanhei said disdainfully, the Wei brothers underestimated the enemy and were too stupid. If we want to invite someone, we should invite Ziao's ace assassin. It will be absolutely foolproof. Hearing the word ace assassin, the bearded man's eyes were filled with admiration. Ziao's ace assassin was known as the elite among the elite. Although he was secretly trained by the Zio family, he was still an assassin after all. He was in awe of the strong men in the same industry and hoped to reach their level. It's decided. Zio Shanhei said, I'll go back and talk to the elder. If he agrees, you can go with me to the Zio building headquarters tomorrow. No need. Suddenly, a voice came from the stairs leading up. Lilu Okyu walked down with Vipera and others, and said with a smile, this building owner is here in person. Swish, swish, swish. Someone suddenly entered the basement, and the Zio family assassins in the room rushed out quickly, all holding hidden weapons in their hands, with murderous eyes flashing. TSK. Vipera snorted disdainfully. This posture of preparing to throw a hidden weapon is really not standard. Zio Shanhei squinted his eyes and examined it, and said in surprise, you are the owner of Zio building? What? The owner of Zio building? More than 20 assassins looked dazed. The elder of the Zio family bought a whole set of training methods from the owner of Zio building, and they became assassins because of this. If you think about it carefully, it seems that you can call him master. Knowing the identity of the visitor, more than 20 assassins immediately relaxed. To be precise, they dare not act rashly in front of the assassin master. Lilu Okyu walked into the hall, put one hand on the table, and said with a smile, if I remember correctly, you should be the Zio family's foreign affairs manager, right? Yes. Zio Shanhei stood up and bowed politely. I'm Zio Shanhei. I have been to your building with the Great Elder in the past. Lilu Okyu smiled and said, Manager Zio, I want to correct what you just said. Correction? Zio Shanhei was at a loss. Lilu Okyu took out the Desert Eagle, twirled it on his fingertips, and smiled. My identity is not the owner of Zio building, but the leader of Tigos Heng School. Zio Shanhei was stunned. The bearded man reacted very quickly, and the hidden weapon on his sleeve fell immediately. However, before he could act, Lilu Okyu raised his hand. The Desert Eagle stopped turning. The muzzle was aimed at him, and with a bang, it shot directly through his forehead. The Lord of Killers, clean and neat. P.S. Let me try first. Can I send VIP chapters? Chapter 164 Why mess with my Iron Bone faction? Plop. The bearded man fell to the ground with a bang. Blood splashed on Zio Shanhei's face, frightening him so much that he almost fell to the ground. A chill ran straight from the soles of his feet to his spine. The assassin leader that he had carefully trained was killed in a second like this? Boss. Seeing the bearded man being killed, the assassins were furious and were about to throw out the hidden weapons in their hands. Swish, swish, swish. VIP and others were faster than them, and all kinds of darts and hidden weapons were thrown at them. Plop, plop. In an instant, more than 20 assassins of the Xiao family fell to the ground. Before they died, they did not forget to sign their hearts. Sure enough, he is really a master. Seeing all his men being killed, Xiao Shanhei's eyes were filled with fear, and his legs were shaking violently, because the desert eagle was already against his forehead. Butler Xiao. Li Luoqiu said with a smile, why mess with my Tegu sect when you can mess with anyone else? Don't kill me. Xiao Shanhei's voice trembled, and his eyes were filled with the fear of death. No one wants to die. How good it is to be alive. Li Luoqiu moved his gun down and said expressionlessly, the headmaster said that your Xiao family's assassin base will be wiped out without leaving any survivors. So, let's go. Bang. The bullet penetrated his chest, and blood splashed on the wall. Plop. The Xiao family's foreign affairs butler fell straight down. At the moment of his death, he was still thinking, how did an organization like Xiao become a member of the Tegu sect, and how did the owner of Xiao become the Hall Master? I can't figure it out, so I can only think about it in the underworld. The Xiao family's assassin base, which used King Gaiju as a cover, was completely eradicated under Li Luoqiu's swift and resolute means. Because it is in the basement, the ceiling effect is excellent. The warriors in the city would never dream of doing it. Dozens of people will die in King Gaiju tonight. To be honest, the assassins of the Xiao family are too amateur. If it weren't for the death order from the head of the sect, that they must all be wiped out, Xiao Tang would not be willing to send out so many members. Swish, swish. Li Luoqiu and his men jumped out from the backyard, landed on a tree and said, the person in charge of the assassin base is the Xiao family's foreign affairs manager. Xiao Shanhei? Xiao Zuji's eyes became stern. Jun Changxiao said, do you know him? Xiao Zuji gritted his teeth and said, my disciple's qualifications regressed in the past, and he often humiliated and made things difficult for the family. Jun Changxiao said, bring that guy here. Dare to bully my disciples, you must torture them and make him live a life worse than death. Li Luoqiu said, I shot him to death. Dead. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, he got it easy. Li Luoqiu said, what should we do next? Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, take away all the bodies and set fire to King Gaiju. Taking away the bodies and burning King Gaiju is to make the Xiao family restless. Understood. Li Luoqiu was about to go down and give the order. Jun Changxiao stopped him and said, Zuji, you set the fire. Burning it means burning all the connections with the Xiao family. Yes. Xiao Zuji nodded and jumped down. Li Luoqiu ordered the members to take away the bodies of Xiao Shanhei and dozens of assassins, and then quickly disappeared under the night. It can be said that they came and went in a hurry. Who? Xiao Zuji stood in front of King Gaiju, holding a torch in his hand, and the firelight reflected on his face, showing an expressionless look. Xiao family. Today, I, Xiao Zuji, will break off all ties with you. Swish. The torch was thrown into King Gaiju, and the flames burned the counters and furniture, forming an unstoppable fire in an instant. Jun Changxiao stood on the city wall, watching the raging fire and the disciples leaving, and said, Zuji, you only have one identity now, a disciple of mighty Gozheng faction. Fire. King Gaiju is on fire. The fire that rendered half of the city red startled the sleeping warriors around, and they rushed out of the room one after another. After receiving the news, the Xiao family immediately sent a large number of direct descendants to put out the fire. Unfortunately, no matter how much water was poured, it was difficult to extinguish the huge flames. After dawn, King Gaiju was reduced to ruins. Damn it. The eldest elder of the Xiao family, standing in the charred ruins, said with bloodshot eyes, who did this? There are so many assassins in the basement, it is impossible for the fire to start for no reason. Someone must have done it deliberately. Elder. The second elder came over and whispered, there is blood in the secret room, and our people are missing. The eldest elder of the Xiao family clenched his fists tightly. At this moment, he guessed that the tea house was burned. Xiao Shanhei and the assassins he had worked so hard to train disappeared, and they must have been in danger. Who? Who did it? The eldest elder of the Xiao family could only roar in his heart, and he dared not show too much anger on his face, because King Gaiju was just an industry in the eyes of outsiders. King Gaiju was reduced to ashes under the fire, and it was instantly spread in Liang City, and became a hot topic. No one would believe that it was an accidental fire. It must have been deliberate. So after in-depth discussion, the conclusion was that the Xiao family had offended someone. Who did they offend? This is not easy to guess. After all, no one witnessed the arsonist. Xiao family hall. Several elders gathered together. Their faces were filled with anger, anxiety, and confusion, which was quite colorful. After spending a lot of money to buy the method of training assassins from Xiao Lao, after several years of training, it has gradually formed a scale, but it was gone in an instant, which is definitely a heavy blow. What's more tragic is that we don't know who did it. Bang. The second elder slammed the table angrily and said, "Grand Elder, this matter must be investigated thoroughly." The third elder said, "We don't know who the person is. How can we investigate?" The fourth elder said cautiously, "The other party dared to set fire to King Gaiju, and they may not be afraid of our Xiao family." This sentence calmed the angry elders down instantly. The fifth elder said solemnly, "The person who took action dared to set fire to King Gaiju, and did not leave a corpse. This is definitely not a good person." The elder who had been silent all the time said, "Could it be the Iron Bone Sect?" He thought for a long time, but he didn't think of anyone that the Xiao family had offended recently. He could only guess whether the Iron Bone Sect would find out about the assassins they sent to attack Xiao Ziji. The second elder said, "The leader of the Tigu sect has just returned from the challenge with his disciples from the Heoki sect. Does he have time to commit a crime?" The first elder fell into deep thought. To be honest, he didn't want it to be the Tigu sect, because it was not easy for this 8th-rate sect to defeat the Heoki sect. The first elder said, "Let's discuss this matter after the head of the family comes out of retreat." Yes. The elders nodded. However, they didn't know that Jun Changxiao, who had returned to the Tigu sect, was still carrying out the second step of the plan. Destroying King Gaiju is just the beginning. Sect leader Jun must use different means to carry out crazy revenge on the Xiao family. After a little consideration, he said, "Luoqiu, investigate all the industries of the Xiao family in Qingyang County in the shortest time." Li Luoqiu said, "What is the leader going to do?" Jun Changxiao sneered, "The biggest lifeline of a family is the industry. Only economic sanctions can give a fatal blow." "I understand," Li Luoqiu said. "And the Xiao family's great elder?" Jun Chang smiled lightly and said, "Keep a close eye on him." Xiao Shanhei was only a general manager of foreign affairs, and this so-called great elder must be the real mastermind. All his lackeys were dead. How could he survive? Chapter 165. I feel uncomfortable if I don't do something. Jun Changxiao would not destroy the Xiao family. After all, it was a family from Liang City, and there was no evidence to prove that they had assassinated him, but he could use other methods to retaliate, such as doing something economically. The members of Xiaotang were very efficient, and brought a lot of news in just 2 days. The Xiao family has a lot of industries. Li Luoqiu reported, "The main business is iron ore, elixirs and medicinal materials. There are branches in the 8 cities of Qingyang County. Elixir and medicinal materials?" Jun Changxiao said. "Can it compare with the AI family?" Li Luoqiu shook his head and said, "The Xiao family is a martial arts family. They are definitely not as good as the AI family in terms of industry. According to the intelligence, most of the Xiao family's elixirs and medicinal materials are provided by the AI family." "Really?" Jun Changxiao raised a smile at the corner of his mouth. "This is good information that can be used to cause trouble. What about the iron ore?" "There is a mining area 300 miles outside Liang City. It was discovered and mined by the Xiao family. The iron ore material comes from here." Jun Changxiao rested his chin on the back of his hand and said, "What do you think? If this mine suddenly catches fire, is flooded, or collapses unexpectedly, will it cause losses to the Xiao family?" Li Luoqiu said, "Not only will it, but it will be huge. The Zhao family's iron mine supplies 60% of the market in the entire Qingyang County. If it is gone, the loss will definitely be heavy. Take people to the mine and create some accidents. Jun Chang smiled. Yes. Li Luoqiu said. Jun Chang smiled. Are there miners in the mine? Yes. People from the Zhao family? This kind of coolie is usually hired from neighboring villages. Jun Chang smiled. Drive them out when you start. Every grievance has its perpetrator. The Zhao family sent people to assassinate again and again, so naturally he would play with them to the end. But he would never hurt innocent people. This was also the last bottom line he could stick to after adapting to the cruelty of the Xingyao continent. I understand. Li Luoqiu walked out of the study and shook his head, saying, the sect master's means of revenge are quite varied. Zhao family, you have provoked a devil, and I'm afraid you will suffer more than the Heoki sect. Sect master. Li Qingyang walked in, put the sketch on the desk and said, this is the sketch I designed. What do you think? Back to the Tigu sect, he practiced while focusing on the transformation. Keep it for now. Jun Changxiao said, wait until there are more disciples, then do the transformation. Although there is no shortage of money, it is not a good thing to keep renovating. Wait until there are more people. Li Qingyang put the sketch away and said, this is my temporary design. Since the sect master is not in a hurry, I will go back and design it carefully. Jun Changxiao patted him on the shoulder and said, if you don't practice martial arts, you will definitely be a civil engineer. Civil engineer? Li Qingyang was puzzled and said, sect master, what is this deputy position? Jun Changxiao didn't explain to him and said, I have something to do in Huayang City, so you can take care of the sect first. Yeah. Our great genius Li is used to it. Before leaving, Jun Changxiao spent 20 contribution points to buy 2 first-grade cold swords for Yi Xingchen and Li Fei as a reward for the victory of Heokimen. Then, set off for Liang City. Since we know that the Zhao family mainly deals in elixirs and medicinal materials, we will feel uncomfortable if we don't do something. Finally, I have a sword. Yi Xingchen took the first-grade cold sword, felt the coldness and sharpness, and said with satisfaction, the quality of this sword should be medium grade, so we can use it first. Martial artists may not have medium grade weapons. Yi only used it to describe it as a makeshift. If others heard this, they would definitely fight. Walking to the small martial arts arena in the inner courtyard, Yi Xingchen took a long breath, put one hand on the hilt, stared at the front, and took the sword posture. Zhao Hang next to him looked over and murmured, brother Yi also knows swords? Clang. Suddenly, the cold sword was unsheathed, and the sword shadow spread, interweaving more than 10 in an instant. Zhao Hang said, 10 swords in one breath, not bad. Clang. Yi Xingchen sheathed the sword, then raised it again, silently thinking of a quick one-word formula. Still want to try? Zhao Hang thought to himself. Clang. Yi Xingchen unsheathed the sword again. Clang. The sword was sheathed. Watching the sword shadows appear for a moment and disappear like fireworks, Zhao Hang exclaimed, one breath, 24 swords. No. No. This is definitely not relying on one's own sword intent. It is definitely relying on some kind of sword skills. Zhao Hang hurriedly said, brother Yi, did you use a sword skill just now? Yes. Yi Xingchen said. Zhao Hang was surprised. What kind of sword skill is this that can allow brother Yi to improve from 10 swords in one breath to 24 swords? Yi Xingchen said lightly, Lingjian Shenju, given by the headmaster. Given by the headmaster? Could it be the sword skills of the sect? Zhao Hang, who has always been calm and withdrawn, was a little excited. He went to find the headmaster without practicing swordsmanship. As a result, he learned that the headmaster had gone to Huayang City, so he sat outside the courtyard and waited. This is really a sword fanatic. Jun Changxiao has different feelings every time he goes down the mountain and into the city. This time when he came to Huayang City, it was more obvious, because just after entering, the eyes cast by passers-by contained admiration. Why? Because the incident of smashing the Heoki sect had spread throughout Qingyang County, the huge sensation it caused was definitely earthquake level. Take Liang City for example, the Zhao family offended someone, Qingyang was burned down, but it was only briefly discussed for a while. before it was suppressed by the Tegu sect, and people even forgot about it. The most famous sect in Qingyang County now? The Tegu Zheng sect. The most famous person in Qingyang County now? Jun Changxiao. If we talk from the perspective of the earth, sect leader Jun is definitely an internet celebrity now. No, a top tier traffic star. Xinjiang continent needs a social platform, and opening an account can attract countless fans in Qingyang County alone. Wow. Sect leader Jun is so handsome. On the way to the herbal medicine store, the young girls saw the handsome Jun Changxiao and immediately lowered their heads in shyness, their hearts pounding, and they almost screamed on the spot. Master Jun. A rather unrestrained girl suddenly rushed over and handed over a bouquet of flowers. Her little face flushed with shame and she said, please accept it. Jun Changxiao took the flowers, gave him a side kill, and smiled gently. Thank you. I can't do it anymore. The girl in the distance saw this. Her eyelids fluttered, and she fainted on the spot. The girl who sent the flowers covered her hot face. Her heart accelerated, and she ran away shyly, afraid that she would faint if she got close to him again. Master Jun, these are my flowers. Master Jun, I have some too. Master Jun, can you sign for me? Master Jun, can I hug you? In an instant, a group of beautiful young girls surrounded Master Jun and squeezed to give him flowers. The scene was spectacular. Ahaha. At the inner gate of Huayang City, Jun Changxiao squatted in the corner of the tunnel in trance, grinning with a big mouth, and his saliva was almost flowing out. Passing warriors looked over and whispered, what happened to Sect Master Jun? He squatted there after he came in. I think he was thinking about something happy. No matter how happy he is, he shouldn't smile so obscenely, right? Chapter 166 Zhao family, make arrangements. The head of the AI family, who was in a meeting at the AI family, learned that Master Jun had come to the herbal medicine store, so he left his stall and hurried over. As soon as he entered the door, he didn't see anyone, so he bowed and smiled. What wind blew Master Jun here? Northwest wind. Jun Changxiao said lightly. When AI Shangni heard the tone, he immediately judged that he was a little unhappy, and he became nervous. Could it be that some ignorant juniors in the AI family offended Master Jun? In the eyes of the head of the AI family, Jun Changxiao is the god of wealth. Whether the family can be more prosperous in the future depends on the healing pills and body shaping pills, so naturally he dare not offend him. He walked into the reception room cautiously and said, Master Jun seems a little annoyed. Hey. Jun Changxiao sighed. Don't mention it. AI Shangni breathed a sigh of relief. The 3 words don't mention it mean that the things that made him unhappy must have nothing to do with the AI family. Master Jun, we have a long history of friendship. The head of the AI family sat down and said, if you have any troubles, you may as well tell me. I may be able to help you solve your problems. Jun Chang smiled and said, Master AI, you should have heard of the Zhao family in Liang City, right? Did the Zhao family offend Master Jun? As expected of a businessman, he guessed the idea in a flash. I've heard of it. AI Shangni said. Jun Changxiao rested his elbow on the armrest and held his chin and said, this Zhao family has offended me. Sure enough. AI Shangni secretly said, in terms of strength, the Zhao family is not as good as the 7th-rate sects. They dare to offend the Tegu sect. Are they tired of hanging themselves? If the senior management of the Zhao family heard it, they would definitely feel wronged. Their offense to the Tegu sect dates back to a few months ago. At that time, the Tegu sect was not so arrogant. Now they realize it and are ready to stop and be honest for a while, but they were arranged. Master AI. Jun Chang smiled and said, I'm a bit vindictive, and I really hate those who are two-faced. AI Shangni hurriedly said, Master Jun, my AI family has nothing to do with the Zhao family, and I'm definitely not a two-faced person. The hidden meaning was absolutely perfect. Jun Chang smiled and said, we are friends, so I naturally believe it. As he said that, he put 2 healing pills on the table and said, thanks for your support in Heokiban. I will give these 2 healing pills to Master AI. It would be polite if I don't accept them. AI Shangni said, thank you, Master Jun, for the pills. As he said that, he took the pills back happily. After all, according to the last auction price, the 2 healing pills were worth 1.2 million teals. Master AI. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. How is the collection of materials going? Yes. AI Shangni hurriedly took out the herbs he had collected recently and said, Master Jun, there are not enough herbs this time. I will personally deliver them to the Tegu sect. After collecting more herbs in a while, Jun Changxiao took the herbs away and said, by the way, I have a list of herbal seeds here. Does the herbal medicine store have them in stock? AI Shangni took the list, glanced at it, and smiled. Master Jun, the herbs are a little hard to find, but my AI family has plenty of these seeds. As he said that, he handed the list to shopkeeper Ma and ordered him to bring all the seeds on it as soon as possible. After everyone left, AI Shangni moved closer and lowered his voice. Master Jun, I have something to ask, but I don't know if I should ask it or not. Yes. Have all the disciples of your sect taken the body shaping pill? Yes. The fact that your disciples are so strong in the Heoki sect should be related to the body shaping pill, right? It has a lot to do with it. Okay. AI Shangni smiled. Jun Changxiao knew that he wanted to promote the body shaping pills better, so he was looking forward to the high price he could get at the auction. The higher the price, the more he would get. Even if he had more than 10 million in his pocket, Sect Master Jun would not feel that the money was a waste. Half an hour later, shopkeeper Ma took out all the medicinal seeds listed, and they were all high quality. Needless to say, they were absolutely free. Jun Changxiao accepted them without hesitation and said, the sect has something else to do, so I will take my leave first. AI Shangni went out to see him off. The head of the AI family is so nice to Sect Master Jun. In Heoki sect, the head of the AI family is helping the Tegu sect to support the scene. It is said that he is willing to lend 10 million teals as a prize. TSK, the relationship is so close. The AI family and the Tegu sect must have a lot of business dealings. Passers-by whispered. After seeing Jun Changxiao off, the head of the AI family returned home and hesitated in the hall with his hands behind his back. Master, what's going on? AI Shank asked in confusion. AI Shangni sighed and said, the Zhao family in Liang City has offended sect leader Jun. AI Shank's eyes widened. AI Shangni sat down, put one hand on the teacup and said, secret leader Jun should know that we have business dealings with the Zhao family, and we came to the herbal medicine store to make some bargains. AI Shank said, Master, what should we do? AI Shangni took a sip of tea and said, secret leader Jun is the god of wealth of my AI family, and we must not offend him, so the business with the Zhao family will be terminated immediately. AI Shank said, but the Zhao family just sent a deposit a few days ago, and my third brother even signed a contract with them. We must terminate the contract, even if it is a breach of contract. AI Shangni said firmly. Breach of contract? Then you have to pay 10 times the deposit. Although AI Shank was heartbroken, since the master of the family said so, he had to terminate the contract immediately. I'll go and tell them. Wait, check carefully to see if any of our AI family's other businesses have cooperated with the Zhao family. If so, no matter how big or small, no matter how much, they will all be cut off. Yes. Zhao family. The sixth elder in charge of medicinal materials and elixirs walked into the hall with a large stack of silver bills in a dejected manner. Sixth brother, where did you get so much money? Said the eldest elder of the Zhao family. The AI family gave it to you. The sixth elder said. The second elder smiled and said, why did the head of the AI family suddenly give so much money? Is it because my Zhao family has been purchasing goods from their pharmacy? Although our Zhao family is not the main business, it occupies half of the elixir and medicinal materials market in Liang City. The third elder smiled and said, the AI family will definitely value it very much. It is only natural that they give us money to deepen their relationship. The AI family recently developed a healing pill and became the talk of the town. Suddenly, they took the initiative to give so much money. The top leaders of the Zhao family suddenly felt like they were floating off the ground. Hey. The sixth elder slapped the banknote on the table and said angrily, what the hell is sending money? This is the penalty for breach of contract given by the AI family. Penalty for breach of contract? Everyone's smile froze when they heard it. The eldest elder of the Xiao family frowned and said, "What's going on?" The sixth elder put a letter on the table and said, "The AI family just sent someone to deliver a letter to cut off all business dealings with our Xiao family." What? The elders gathered around to read the letter. Sure enough, it was written clearly in black and white, "From now on, my AI family will cut off all business dealings with the Xiao family." The signer AI Shangni even pressed his handprint. The people who were about to float up just now were hit hard on the forehead by a heavy hammer. Not only did their souls enter their bodies instantly, they almost drilled into the ground. Although the stack of money was a lot, if they cut off business dealings with the AI family, without high quality elixirs and medicinal materials, how would they do business in the future? Catcher. The eldest elder of the Xiao family held the letter and said angrily, "Our Xiao family must have offended someone." Chapter 167. Convincing Mr. Wei to set up a pharmacy. The AI family did not hesitate to break the contract and cut off business relations. No matter how stupid the Xiao family's top management is, they can guess that they must have offended someone. The elder frowned even more tightly. The AI family focuses on business and values harmony. Suddenly severing all business relations and not hesitating to pay 10 times the penalty for breach of contract. There must be a huge force behind it. My Xiao family. Who the hell did they offend? The elder was about to collapse. Of course, he didn't consider that it would be Jun Changxiao who was behind the scenes, because this 8th-rate sect was absolutely not qualified and capable of making the AI family give up business relations with their own family. It's a pity. It's really the head of the Jun family. After leaving the herbal medicine store, this guy didn't return immediately, but took a walk in the market to buy some seasonings and rapeseed for doo-doo, and bought some crystal cores. He didn't set off for home until dusk. If the head of the AI family had a keen eye, he should have cut off all business dealings with the Xiao family by now. Without a high quality supplier, even if your Xiao family can purchase goods from other stores, it will definitely lose many users, and the income will inevitably be greatly reduced. There are also mineral veins. Without this industry, it is equivalent to cutting off half of the economic source. How can a family without money develop? Hehe. A sinister laugh came from the mountains and fields, scaring the wild beasts to flee. Back to the sect. It was already dark. Jun Changxiao just returned to the courtyard and saw Zhao Hang sitting at the door, so he asked in confusion, "Why are you sitting here instead of practicing sword?" Swish. Zhao Hang stood up and hurriedly said, "Master, please teach me the Lingjian divine art." This guy's really persistent. He squatted at the door and waited for a whole day, and he didn't even go to pee during that time. "You can learn if you want," Jun Changxiao said. "You must contribute to the sect. He will not give you whatever you want, just because he is a good seedling. He must be recognized. For example, Yi Xingchen defeated the disciples of Heoki sect with absolute strength and raised the prestige of Tigu sect, so he generously gave them the first great cold front sword. The system did not actively match the sword skills into the sect's skills, which means that this thing cannot be given to disciples to practice casually. It's not that it doesn't match automatically, but the level of sword skills is too high. Even if the disciples with low spiritual roots have a copy, they can only learn a little bit. "Master," Zhao Hang said, "how can we make contributions?" Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, "Soon, I will take my disciples to experience, and you can go with me. If you perform well, you can be rewarded with Lingjian Shenju." Okay. Zhao Hang agreed without thinking. There are two things that sword cultivators pay the most attention to. One is the sword, and the other is the sword skills. It doesn't matter if you lose your life for this. After returning to the study, Jun Changxiao opened the alchemy pavilion and began to automatically match the medicinal materials in fire, and then ding 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 to refine. There are not many medicinal materials this time, and there are not many kinds of medicinal materials to be refined. But there were a lot of healing pills accumulated, which made Jun Changxiao secretly think about whether to give more to the AI family and let them auction them. No. Scarcity makes things valuable, and the quantity must be controlled to sell them at a good price. The next day, early in the morning, a beautiful divine song sounded in the martial arts arena. Jun Changxiao led the disciples to dance together in front, and then went to the medicine garden. After taking the medicinal seeds and checking them, Wei Lao was surprised and said, "Master, these are all high quality medicinal seeds of the AI family." Jun Changxiao said, with Wei Lao's strength, he naturally needs high quality seeds to show his talents. "Master, you are too kind." Wei Lao said, "The higher the quality of the seeds, the longer the growth cycle." "How long?" "Based on the spiritual power gathered in the medicine garden at present, it will take at least 2 months." "How is the effect?" Wei Lao pondered for a while and said, "It is much higher than the first batch of medicinal materials." "Really?" Jun Changxiao was delighted. "The key gathering pills made from the first batch of medicinal materials have 10 times the spiritual power. If this high quality is mature, wouldn't it be more delicious to use it to refine?" "Old Wei." Jun Chang smiled and said, "I have a body shaping pill here, you can take it. If you want the disciples of the sect to become stronger quickly, and to cope with the 1-year agreement of Strongest Sect, you must rely on key gathering pills. If you just go outside to collect herbs and refine them, the supply will definitely not meet the demand, so Old Wei is very important." "You are an old man." Old Wei shook his head and smiled. "What pills are you still taking?" Jun Chang smiled and said, "This pill can strengthen your body." "Old Wei, don't refuse it." "Okay." Elder Wei took the pill and swallowed it. When the effect of the medicine took effect and his muscles, blood and strength were greatly improved, he said in disbelief, "Little guy, your pill is amazing." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Elder Wei, I still have a lot of amazing pills. If you join the Tigu sect and become the head of the medicine hall, you can eat as much as you want." He was not satisfied with just hiring a herbalist who cultivated medicinal materials so carefully, but wanted to recruit him as a disciple and become a member of the Tigu sect. Old Wei shook his head and said, "You're an old fellow with half your body buried in the ground. Why would you still think about joining a sect?" Jun Chang smiled and said seriously, "Old Wei, you have to know that there is a kind of people in this world who are old, but their hearts are young." "Old but their hearts are young?" Old Wei laughed at himself and said, "As for me, I don't have any dreams or goals. I just live in this world. As I grow old, my heart is also old." Jun Chang smiled and said, "People have to keep fighting while they are alive. Old Wei is too pessimistic." "Oh." Old Wei sighed and said, "Little guy, when you experience more things and suffer more blows, you will understand that it is impossible not to be pessimistic in life." He turned and left, his back looking even more vicissitudes of life. "Old Wei." Jun Changxiao shouted, "I don't care what you've been through or what kind of blow you've suffered. I just want to tell you that, as long as you're healthy, you should fight for it, not give up on yourself." Old Wei stopped and said with a smile, "Little guy, are you taking a class with an old man who has walked more roads than you have eaten rice?" Jun Changxiao said seriously, "I just don't want Old Wei to continue to sink, but I hope he can live happily, even if not for himself, but for his deceased relatives and brothers." Old Wei's body suddenly shook, and his skinny hands trembled slightly. Sure enough, he guessed it right. Jun Changxiao said, "Old Wei is a master in the research of medicinal materials. He must have worked hard when he was young. In this case, why don't you cheer up and join hands with me to do something big?" Join hands to do something big. This sentence kept ringing in my ears, not only from Jun Changxiao, but also from another person. Old Wei's turbid eyes gradually became moist. "Child," he said in a trembling voice, "your last words were said to me by someone hundreds of years ago." Jun Changxiao said, "It seems that I'm not the only one who understands Elder Wei." Elder Wei took a breath and said sadly, "There is no one in the world who understands me anymore." "I understand." Jun Changxiao said. Elder Wei said, "Little guy, tell me about your great cause." Jun Changxiao said seriously, "Let the Strongest Sect become the strongest sect, and let the name of the sect resound throughout the Xinjiang continent. Your great cause is much bigger than his." Elder Wei murmured, turned around and smiled, "But it's very much to my taste." Did Elder Wei agree? "If the head of the sect doesn't despise my old bones, I'm willing to do my best for the Strongest Sect." The next day, Jun Changxiao summoned his disciples and solemnly announced the establishment of the second hall of the Tigu sect, the medicine hall, and Elder Wei was appointed as the head of the hall, in charge of medicinal materials and medicine. Sun Bukong and others were classified as members of the medicine hall. After being conferred the title of Hall Master, Old Wei returned to the medicine garden, sat alone in the pavilion, looked at the blue sky and white clouds, and murmured, "Old buddy, is my decision right? PS. Please subscribe, support, recommend, and vote for me. If the results are good, there will be more in the evening." Chapter 168, Full Recruitment of Disciples. The establishment of the medicine hall marks another step forward for the Tegu sect towards specialization. Of course, there is still a long way to go. Jun Changxiao needs to explore while walking. Then, slowly add the element that a sect must have to gradually improve and expand. Although this road is destined to be long, I'm full of confidence because I have a system plugin. The Zio family's elixir and medicinal materials industry is arranged by the AI family, and Liluo Qiu is responsible for handling the mineral veins. Jun Changxiao is free and easy, and began to focus on martial arts. After buying the Qinglang Yanyu sword, he deeply realized that his peak martial arts strength is simply not as good as shit, and he must break through as soon as possible. How to break through? You can only complete the epic task. Because if you don't complete it, your elm will always be suppressed. What a fuck. Jun Changxiao opened the data panel, clicked on the details of the epic task, and murmured, "There are more than 30 days left for the task, there is enough time to prepare." This kind of task of killing a large number of beasts in the valley is definitely a large-scale copy, and you must bring a lot of disciples to go. Master. While thinking, Li Qingyang walked into the study and said, "There are a lot of people outside who want to sign up." How many? At least 500 or 600. That's quite a lot. Jun Changxiao was not surprised that so many people came to sign up to join the sect. After all, after defeating Heoki sect, any smart person would definitely realize the potential of Tegu sect. Let's go. Jun Changxiao stood up and said, "Go and recruit disciples." Creaky. The tightly closed door of Tegu sect was pushed open. Jun Changxiao stepped out, and before he walked down the steps, hundreds of young people surrounded him like a tide, clamoring to join the sect. Many of these people saw the recruitment notice a month ago, and also wanted to join. Why did they come now? Because they told their parents about the idea of joining Tegu sect, and they were ruthlessly suppressed. The reason was that offending the leader of the 100 Sects Alliance and signing a war agreement with Heoki sect, joining such a sect was tantamount to seeking death. No wonder those parents. The 100 Sects Alliance and Heoki sect were like giants in Qingyang County, who would dare to take the risk and send their children into the tiger's mouth. It's different now. Jun Changxiao led his disciples to severely defeat Heoki sect, proving the strength of Tegu sect with his strength. A sect that was once not in the mainstream seems to have suddenly risen, and it has the ability to compete with the 6th-rate sects. This is definitely a potential stock. Many far-sighted parents not only agreed to their children's decision, but also personally sent them to the gate of the mountain and prayed at the foot of the mountain, hoping that they could be accepted by Tegu sect. Unfortunately, many parents are destined to be disappointed because Tegu sect only has 260 places left. Line up, come one by one. Li Qingyang directed the order, and more than 500 teenagers lined up neatly and were interviewed one by one. "What's your name?" Jun Changxiao asked the first teenager to register. The boy may be too excited, stammering, report, master, I. Jun Chang smiled and said, "Straighten your tongue before speaking." Huh. The boy took a deep breath, controlled his excitement and said, "Report, master, my name is Yin Ziping." Jun Chang smiled and said, "Quanzin sect? Quanzin sect?" Yin Ziping said at a loss, "I have never joined a sect." Jun Chang smiled and shook his head and said, "Little dragon girl was harmed by people with your name. Let's go. Tegu sect is not suitable for you. Just because of the name, you are not accepted into the sect. Recruiting disciples is really arbitrary. This incident tells us that even in the other world, naming is a very technical thing." Next. Jun Chang smiled. A handsome young man came over and said politely, "Master Jun, my name is Lin Jianghang." Jun Changxiao looked at him, took out the admission form, filled in his name, and stamped it with a big seal, pointed to the back and said, "Go in, someone will receive you." Thank you, Master. Lin Jianghang bowed and stepped into the Tigu sect with the envy of the young men. He was admitted without asking anything, and was admitted just by saying his name. It seems that he still has a good chance. Come in, come in. Suzaomo, who was sitting on the martial arts field, held a piece of grass in his mouth and said, Xiaofei, it's up to you. Okay. Li Fei kicked the ball hard, and the happy football flew away in an arc. Lin Jianghang, who had just walked in, was hit in the face by the happy football before he had time to look at the Tigu sect. Not bad. Suzaomo said, you can withstand Xiaofei's kick without falling down, so you should be quite strong. Using football to test, what a creative idea. Outside, Jun Changxiao didn't expect that Suzaomo and his gang of bastards would use football to kick new disciples. He took out another entry form and said, what's your name? The boy said, my name is Cui Bujian. Pa. He stamped the sect seal and said, go in. This guy really recruits people by name, as long as he sees eye to eye, regardless of spiritual root cultivation. Bang. In the Tigu sect, Cui Bujian, who had just walked in, was also attacked by the happy football, and then fell to the ground with a bang, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Suzaomo was stunned and said, so weak? One kick made him spit blood. That. Li Fei scratched his head and said, brother, I didn't control my strength just now, and I kicked out at least 1,000 pounds of force. Ah. Suzaomo's eyes widened, and then he rushed over, picked up Cui Bujian who was bleeding wildly, and rushed to the medicine hall in a hurry. Sun Bukong, rescue, rescue. As long as Jun Changxiao saw that he liked someone, he would accept him as his disciple. In a short time, all the more than 500 teenagers were interviewed. 260 people joined the Tigu sect, and the others were eliminated. There was no way. There were only so many places, and it was impossible to accept them all. After the disciples were recruited, the data on the system panel showed that the sect had 500 people, and the contribution value increased to 720, with an overflow of 220 points. It will be automatically cleared after 24 hours, so Jun Changxiao didn't think about it, and bought 4 bottles of qualification transformation liquid of different levels for Suzaomo and others to take. As for the remaining 20 points, I plan to refresh them all in the evening, and try my luck to see if I can get something good. Ding. The system detects that the members are full and meet the requirements. The sect mission is activated. Jun Changxiao rubbed his hands and opened the data panel. The sect mission changed from none to there are sect missions. Click to view details. Click to view. Rows of tasks are presented on the small data panel. There are about 100 kinds of sect missions presented, and Master Jun is a little dazzled. Perhaps because of the sect construction and the sect level upgrade, the recommended index of new tasks is very small. Most of them are 2 stars, and there are also several 3 stars. 1 star represents 1 contribution value, and 2 stars represent 2 points. Jun Changxiao estimated that, if all the disciples complete all the tasks, the achievement value should be full, so that the construction can be improved, and more functions can be opened. But, it's too troublesome to release so many tasks one by one. The system said, the host can refresh them all. If you are lucky, you may be able to swipe out the task release list, and let the disciples take the tasks themselves. Chapter 169 Sect Mission List. When the sect missions were first distributed, there were not many, so Jun Changxiao called the disciples over to distribute them one by one. This time there were more than 100, which would be troublesome to distribute. At the critical moment, the system mentioned the sect mission list. The sect mission list is a product that can automatically distribute missions. It can be operated unmanned 24 hours a day, allowing disciples to collect them by themselves. The premise is that it has to be refreshed from the mall based on luck. Is it difficult to refresh? As long as the host has contribution points, it is not a problem to refresh it. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, aren't you talking nonsense? If I have endless contribution points, what can't I refresh? Unfortunately, you don't have endless contribution points. The system said. Jun Changxiao was too lazy to pay attention to it, muttering, I have an ominous feeling that I will be cheated of a lot of contribution points. Master. At this time, Wei Lao came to see him and said, "A sect can't have only one herbalist." "What do you mean, Wei Lao?" Jun Changxiao said. Wei Lao said, "I want to select a few suitable disciples in the sect and teach them how to grow medicinal herbs in person. Being hired as a herbalist, he only needs to grow medicinal herbs. Now that he has become the head of the Iron Bone Sect's medicine hall, he must fulfill his duties." Jun Changxiao said, "Tomorrow, I will gather the disciples and let Wei Lao personally select them." Yes. Wei Lao left to grow medicinal herbs. Jun Changxiao began to prepare for the dungeon experience 1 month later and decided to take 25 disciples to Death Valley first. 7 inner disciples must go, and the other 10 disciples with medium grade spiritual roots must also go. The rest will be filled by Zhao Hong, Long Xiang and others. Jun Changxiao returned to the study and pulled out the primary maul. After refreshing once in Heokiban, he only looked at the Kinglan Yanayu Dao and started to fight with Kinhoran. He didn't have time to carefully observe other products. Swish. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao stood up. In the second row, second grid of the product column, there is a magic modified sniper rifle silencer. Sniper rifle, silencer. This is the favorite thing of gunners. Click on the detailed introduction. The content is a silencer suitable for various magic modified sniper rifles, which can make it silent after shooting, and the price is 20 contribution points. Only 20 points. Not expensive, not expensive. Ding. The host consumes 20 contribution points and obtains a magic modified silencer X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 500/500. After buying the silencer, Jun Changxiao continued to browse the products. Unfortunately, the products behind were useless. Continue to refresh. Ding. Sect contribution value 490/500. This refresh was a bad idea. The products were all daily necessities, such as full function toothbrushes, multifunction soaps, etc. Jun Changxiao bought a multifunction soap with the cheapest 10 contribution points. It has many functions and can be used as shampoo and shower gel. Ding. Sect contribution value 470/500. Refresh again. Although most of the products are useless this time, there is an item called Skill Training Room that is worth buying. It functions similarly to the Muscle Shaping Room, mainly for training skills. Jun Changxiao spent 20 contribution points to buy it. Not only can he use it himself, but he can also let Suzaomo and the members of Xiaotang train their skills. School contribution value 440/500. The third refresh, luck finally came, and a product called School Task List appeared in the product. The system said, yes, yes. Jun Changxiao happily clicked on the product introduction, which reads item, School Task List. Introduction. After starting, the system will automatically match the school tasks, and disciples can click on the school tasks to receive them. Price 100 contribution points. So expensive? Jun Changxiao was a little speechless after seeing the price. The system said, the school task list can save the host from frequently issuing school tasks, and it is worth buying, even if it is more expensive. That's right. Jun Changxiao spent 100 points to buy it. After such consumption, the school contribution value is still 340 points. Jun Changxiao came to the outer courtyard. First placed the body training room next to the muscle shaping room, then chose a larger house, and took out the sect task list. The sect task list is similar to a wall-mounted TV, about 140 x 80 in length and width. Jun Changxiao hung it on the wall 1 meter high, and turned it on with a thought. The screen suddenly lit up, automatically matching the sect tasks and presenting them. There are not many tasks, only 20 are listed for the time being. There is a small note below that the task list is refreshed at a fixed time every morning, and it is also divided into single player and multiplayer tasks, with task difficulty and recommended cultivation tips. What's more, there is a task completion ranking list on the right, but because no one has completed it, the ranking list is currently empty. Exquisite. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. He called Li Qingyang and asked someone to make a plaque and hang it outside the room. Since then, the Tegu sect has added another task pavilion. The next day, After doing morning exercises, Jun Changxiao began to introduce the task list in the task pavilion in detail, as well as how to claim it. It was not too difficult, and single player tasks could be claimed by clicking directly. Multiplayer tasks with high star counts, and requiring a fixed number of people, the participating disciples could click to claim them separately. Many new disciples, hearing that after completing the sect tasks, there would be various martial arts resource rewards, their eyes suddenly became hot. After introducing the sect task list, Elder Wei selected 5 disciples. To become a herbalist, there are no high qualifications required, as long as you are careful and serious. I will say this one last time. Jun Changxiao said in a deep voice, school tasks must be carried out according to one's ability. Those who forcibly claim tasks without meeting the conditions and fail to complete them within the specified time limit will be severely punished. Yes. OJK. Disband. Swish. As soon as the voice fell, hundreds of disciples rushed into the task pavilion and crowded in front of the sect task list to look curiously. I have never seen such a TV-like thing before. After adapting for a while, some disciples tried to point their fingers at the single player tasks, and then the confirmation and cancel buttons popped up. Confirm. Disciple Li Shangshan, accept the 2-star sect mission. Deliver letters to the villagers of Qingyang village 5 times within 10 days. The prompt sounded suddenly in the mission pavilion, startling everyone and retreating. I'm scared to death. Is it considered accepted? Ha ha ha. Li Shangshan got out of the crowd, stood at the door, waved to everyone, grinned and said, my fellow brothers and sisters, I'm going to do the mission first. As he said that, he ran out quickly. Bang. As a result, he was hit by the happy ball as soon as he came out, and flew up to the sky again, and then fell into the green belt. Li Shangshan took the lead, and the other disciples were eager to try. However, the head of the sect repeatedly reminded him, so he chose to try his best to agree with the mission requirements to receive it. Brother Long, let's team up together and accept this 3-star mission. Li Yuhe pointed to the mission list. Okay. Long Xiang had no objection. Ling Yuangsu lowered his head and said weakly, 2 brothers, can you lead me? No problem. The 3 of them clicked to confirm. A reminder sounded, disciples Long Xiang, Li Yuhe, Ling Yuangsu, accept the 3-star sect mission, and go to Huaking Mountain, to hunt ground beasts within 5 days. The level of ground beasts is not too high, and the 3 people's current cultivation is enough to be competent. The difficulty lies in how to find the mission target. Let's go. Long Xiang, Li Yuhe, and Ling Yuangsu set off. After careful consideration, the other disciples accepted the mission as required. In just half an hour, more than 20 missions on the sect mission list were all taken away. Many disciples could only continue to practice and wait for the refresh the next day. Sitting in front of the stone railing in front of the main hall, Jun Changxiao murmured, this sect mission list is really convenient. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170. People's rumors are fearful. Relying on the sect task list, disciples can accept tasks on their own. Jun Changxiao does not need to publish them one by one, which saves a lot of trouble. Next, he called Suzaomo, Li Fei and Qianqi over, and gave them a bottle of qualification transformation liquid according to their respective spiritual roots. The 3 people who tasted the sweetness took it directly. Qianqi and Li Fei's spiritual roots were upgraded to the middle level, and their cultivation also entered the 6th grade martial arts apprentice. Suzaomo entered the upper grade spiritual route and his cultivation broke through to the 7th grade martial arts apprentice. So far, the number of people with upper grade spiritual roots in the Tegu sect has increased from 3 to 4. Although the sect is only 8th rate, it has surpassed the 6th rate Aoki sect, which has 3 upper grade spiritual roots. It's just that the upper grade spiritual root qualifications are far from the overall strength. Thank you, Sect Master. Suzaomo and the other 2 bowed. Jun Changxiao said, keep working hard to practice. In a month, I will take you to Death Valley for training. The 3 people who were originally very happy suddenly froze when they heard the word Death Valley. What's wrong? Jun Changxiao said. Suzaomo said in surprise, Master, Death Valley is a forbidden place in Qingyang County. It is said that higher level beasts comparable to Wuzan can be seen everywhere in it. Xianqi and Li Fen's eyes were also filled with fear. The three of them had heard from their elders about the various terrible things in Death Valley since they were young, which created an indelible psychological shadow. Not only them, the warriors of Qingyang County also changed their color when they heard about Death Valley. Forbidden place. It's not a joke. Jun Chang smiled and said, it is because it is difficult, so I took you to experience it, so that you can improve your strength. Isn't it just to complete the epic task? It seems to be well intentioned. Master said to go, then go. Suzaomo expressed his opinion, and Xianqi and Li Fei also agreed. Psychological shadow? Overcome it. The one with the biggest reaction was still Li Qingyang. When he learned about this, he almost couldn't stand and sat on the ground. Master, Li Qingyang said solemnly, Death Valley is full of ferocious beasts. If you don't have the cultivation of a martial master, it would be good if 2 or 3 of the 10 people come out alive. Is it so dangerous? Extremely dangerous. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and smiled. The more dangerous, the more challenging it is. Prepare well and go to Death Valley in a month. Li Qingyang was silent. As a disciple, he would not oppose the master's decision. He summoned 10 junior brothers with middle grade qualifications according to the instructions, and began to arrange special training. Jun Changxiao also knew that Death Valley was full of dangers, and that the lives of disciples could not be taken lightly, so he began to equip them with a large number of key gathering pills, hoping to reach a higher level within a month. The deputy tank cannot be missing. Li Yuhua's physical body is good. Let Zuji take him for special training, and then he can be used to fight monsters. Li Qingyang led 10 disciples with middle grade spiritual roots to practice, and Zio Zuji gave Li Yuhua special training alone. Everything was arranged properly. Next, they just waited for them to finish their training, and set off to Death Valley to play a dungeon. As for other disciples, Jun Changxiao could not ignore them either. Because their levels were suppressed, he personally trained them. Let's set a small goal for him first. In a short period of time, let all the new disciples break through to the 12th stage of opening meridians, and even become martial arts apprentices. There are many opening meridian pills, so it's not a problem. The selected disciples began to undergo special training for the Death Valley experience 1 month later. The new disciples practiced under the guidance of Jun Changxiao. Elder Wen also cultivated 5 disciples while planting high-quality medicinal materials. The sect was thriving. On the 3rd day, Li Luoqiu led people back to the sect. Master. In the study, Li put a space ring on the table and said with a smile, the Zio family's mine collapsed, and hundreds of thousands of taels of iron ore were seized. Jun Chang smiled and said, not bad. The mine collapsed, and the Zio family could dig it out again. But this would consume more material and manpower, and would also suffer heavy losses in a short period of time. This seat has installed a device that can improve body skills in the training room. Let the members of Xiaotang practice when they have time. Jun Chang smiled. Equipment to improve body skills? With curiosity, Li Luoqiu came to the training room and saw another tent next to the shaping room. There was a flash of light on it, and it was obvious that someone was training inside. Ding. Time is up. The door of the body training room opened, and Suzaomo walked out crookedly with a bruised face, and then fell down with a thump, with white foam spraying from her mouth. Li Luoqiu touched his chin and said, it seems a bit scary. As he said that, he stepped into the body training room. What appeared in front of him was a spacious space. From the moment the door closed, his body ran uncontrollably. It was a bit like a treadmill, but the difference was that after Li Luoqiu started running, dense hidden weapons flew from all directions, forcing her to choose to dodge. An hour later, the time in the training room was over, and Li Luoqiu walked out of it, sweating all over his head, his slender legs trembling violently, and he said breathlessly, too scary. Zio family. When the elder learned that several members of the Zio family who were responsible for supervising the construction were missing, and the mine had collapsed, he could not help but spurt out a mouthful of blood. The AI family cut off business ties, and the loss was still within the acceptable range. The collapse of the mine, the family's largest economic income, was definitely a fatal blow. It was good that he didn't faint on the spot. Damn it, who did it? First, King Gaiju was burned, then the AI family cut off business ties with us, and now the mine has collapsed innocently. There must be someone behind the scenes. The senior members of the Xiao family were furious. Several industries that support the economy have been hit hard in succession. This is very fatal to a family and absolutely unbearable. You can think about it. Without the source of goods, it is equivalent to losing funds. Without funds, how can we buy martial arts resources and allow the direct descendants to maintain normal practice? The news that the AI family cut off business ties and the mine collapsed soon spread in Liang City. The warrior who originally guessed that the fire in King Gaiju might be a coincidence immediately determined that this was a mother who offended someone and was arranged. Who arranged it? Many people are thinking about it, and various speculations are spreading in Liang City. The Berry family and the Xiao family have always had grievances. In my opinion, the possibility that the Berry family is secretly making trouble is very high. A few years ago, the Zhang family and the Wang family had unpleasant experiences with the Xiao family because of the iron mine. These two families are also very likely. Warriors kept discussing, and things continued to ferment. Various versions of speculation were spreading. If all were classified, almost all the families, big and small, in Liang City had motives for committing the crime. At first, the Berry family ignored the rumors outside. After all, they had never done it. They were upright and had nothing to fear. But after hearing this, the Xiao family's direct descendants gradually determined that it was the Berry family who was secretly making trouble. So they met the Berry family's direct descendants on the street, disliked each other, and immediately had a dispute, which eventually evolved into a full-scale fight. In this way, the originally peaceful Liang City, because the two families put all their conflicts on the surface, there were exciting fights almost every day. Many suspected families were also involved, making the city chaotic. Sect leader Jun, who spread various versions of the rumor, sat in the study room listening to Li Luoqiu's report and grinned. This is why people's words are scary. P.S. Please vote for recommendation and monthly pass. Chapter 171. Are you a devil? All the rumors in Liang City were deliberately spread by Jun Changxiao and the members of Xiaotang. Even when the direct line of the Berry family and the Xiao family met, they would sometimes play tricks in secret, causing conflicts and fights between the two sides, cutting off the economic source, and making the Xiao family make enemies everywhere. This is Jun Changxiao's whole arrangement. After accepting the task of letting members spread rumors and do bad things secretly, Li Luoqiu once said, "Are you a devil?" She treats her enemies with a straightforward blow. I would never dream of Jun Changxiao's various means. Sometimes, Li Luoqiu thought, if I didn't come out at that time and took the members to hide in the headquarters, the final outcome would definitely be arranged by this guy. So, he is a devil. The targeting of the Xiao family will come to an end for the time being, just keep an eye on it. Jun Changxiao said. Who will be the next target? Li Luoqiu said. Jun Changxiao spread his hands and said, my Tigu sect is not against the whole world, so how can there be so many enemies to target? He really didn't want to make a splash, nor did he want to offend others for the sake of showing off. If no one provokes him, he just wants to quietly train disciples, develop the sect, and become stronger step by step. When he is free, he takes his disciples to sing and dance, or after boring training, he takes them to go on a picnic and barbecue in the wild. The idea is good, but Jun Changxiao understands that reality is cruel, because where there are rivers and lakes, there are grievances. Keeping to oneself, unless you are so strong that others dare not provoke you. Li Luoqiu smiled and said, Heoki sect does not count. Don't say. Jun Changxiao held his chin and said, Leader Qin has fallen so hard, he must be resentful, and he may jump out to show his presence one day. So what does the leader plan to do? Counterattack when he sees it. Qin Horan must have a grudge against him, and Jun Changxiao can't be so arrogant to destroy a 6th-rate sect. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. If the enemy moves, bricks will greet him. Because of various rumors, the conflicts between the Zhao family and other families intensified. Finally, the city lord was alarmed, and they were dragged to the city lord's mansion and severely criticized and educated. Although the major families have calmed down, they have also formed a bigger grudge against the Zhao family. If there is a conflict in the future, it will definitely explode immediately. If the Zhao family cannot be destroyed, it will be disturbed. This is Jun Changxiao's real purpose. Judging from the current situation, it is obviously successful, so he ordered Xiao Tang to keep an eye on it and focus on training disciples. Pass the ball, pass the ball. In the martial arts field, after Suzaomo and Li Fei finished their training, they organized a friendly football match with their junior brothers. Unless it is necessary for the devil's special training, Jun Changxiao always emphasizes to his disciples that they should relax in their training and have some extracurricular activities to cultivate their sentiments. Swish, Li Fei made a long pass in the midfield, and the happy ball dragged an arc and greeted Jun Changxiao's face, who had just walked out, but was finally caught by him with one hand. Come on. Jun Changxiao walked into the martial arts arena with great interest and said, I'll play with you for a while. The corners of Suzaomo's mouth twitched. With the strength of the headmaster, if he couldn't control the force and kicked them, they would definitely become Li Shangshan immediately. Ouch. Li Yuhua suddenly covered her stomach and said, it hurts, I need to go to the toilet. As she said that, she was about to run away, but after taking 2 steps, the happy football hit her head, and heard Jun Changxiao say, Yuhua, go to guard the goal. Oh. Li Yuhua rubbed her head and walked back, but heard the headmaster say again, come back, it's to guard the opposite goal. Start. As a striker, the headmaster Jun showed off his fancy after getting the ball, then dribbled past the defenders and entered the penalty area, kicking a powerful shot. Swish, the ball carried the force, dragged an arc, and flew towards the goal. Li Yuhua, who was in charge of the goalkeeping, not only did not make a save, but turned around and ran to the side, leaving a large empty goal. It was not that he did not have the awareness of a goalkeeper, but that the happy football was not running towards the goal, but towards himself. Bang! Li Yuhua ran a step slower and was hit by the football, and his body went into the goal. Yeah. Jun Changxiao stretched out his scissors hand to celebrate. But no teammates came to celebrate, because they stood there with twitching mouth corners. Master, this is a one-man show. The game continued. Jun Changxiao was like Ronaldo possessed. As long as he touched the ball, he would dribble past the defenders and shoot. As a goalkeeper, Li Yuhua only had one task, not to guard the goal, but to try every possible way to escape the tragic fate of being bombarded by the ball. Unfortunately, there was no escape. When the score expanded to 7-0, the disciples on the field looked at Li Yuhua, who was kicked into the goal 7 times in a row, and their mouths were almost crooked. Master, this is not kicking the ball, it's clearly kicking people. Hey! Jun Changxiao shouted, don't stand there stupidly, play together. Suzaomo and others were about to cry. Master, from the beginning to now, you have scored 7 goals, and our teammates haven't even touched the ball once. How can we have fun? Swish. Jun Changxiao passed the ball to Suzaomo, which made him come back to his senses immediately. He rushed into the penalty area with the ball and kicked Li Yuhua. He and the ball went into the goal together. Damn. He finally found the feeling of playing football. Bang, bang, bang. Master Jun began to cooperate with his teammates. Various long passes and through passes appeared frequently, and he scored wonderful goals again and again. The most sturdy thing was that this guy got the ball in the backcourt, saw a gap, kicked it hard, and the ball flew close to the ground and hit Li Yuhua, and the person in the ball went into the goal again. Super, world wave. Li Yuhua, who knelt in the goal and caught the ball with his abdomen, foamed at the mouth and said, I think I can still save it. Plop. He fell to the ground and fainted. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, the physical strength is not enough, and more rigorous training is required. Do you think the master is bored and plays football? No, he was training Li Yuhua to be not only a qualified deputy tank, but also a flexible deputy tank. Zuji. Jun Changxiao said loudly, this kid's physical training needs to be doubled. Yes. Zyrozuji, who was watching the game, said, Suzaomo, starting from tomorrow, organize a football match every day, and let Li Yuhua be the goalkeeper. Yes. After making the arrangements, Jun Changxiao came to the door of the training room. On the stairs sat several new disciples, including Lin Jianghang and Cui Bujian, all with expressions of despair on their faces. This is normal operation. If a disciple who has joined the Tegu sect for the first few days and has experienced various hell level experiences can still be happy, there is only one possibility: being tortured crazy. Jun Changxiao folded his hands and smiled. How do you feel? Cui Bujian tried to raise his head, biting his lower lip with his teeth, and tears as big as beans fell down. He cried, Master, I miss home. Here is your home. Lin Jianghang, Cui Bujian and others burst into tears and howled in their hearts, Master, it must be a devil. Chapter 172, Level 3 Construction. The Foundry Pavilion is opened. Li Yuhua had just finished the 3-star mission with Long Xiang and Ling Yuangsu, and was abused by Master Jun when he came back. What's more tragic is that Zyrozuji also increased the difficulty of the physical body, and he trained in the shaping room for 4 hours that night before coming out. After dawn, he wanted to go to sleep after dinner, but was dragged by Suzaomo to play football. Everyone understood the master's meaning. At the beginning of the game, no one kicked the ball towards the goal, but kicked it towards him. In this way, Li Yuhua began his miserable life. Although the process was painful, his growth rate was very significant. After a few days, his physical body and reaction have been greatly improved. Now if Suzaomo and others want to kick him, they must add a lot of strength to their feet. He is not the only one who is practicing. 10 middle grade spiritual root disciples are also led by Li Qingyang, eating key gathering pills, and practicing in the spiritual power array. Lu Kai Qian, Yi Xingchen and others have their own practice plans. As for the sect mission, 7 days have passed since the day it was released. The first disciple who received the mission completed it early, and other disciples followed up one after another, completing more than 20 in total. Jun Changxiao opened the data panel, and the achievement value increased from 100 to 200, and the contribution value increased from 340 to 440. There are still many tasks. If all are completed, the contribution value will definitely overflow, so he spent another 100 contribution points to buy 2 bottles of transformation fluid suitable for medium grade, and then called Shanqi and Li Fei. This is to continue to improve. Gulp. Shanqi and Li Fei took the top grade qualification transformation fluid, and the quality of their spiritual roots broke through from medium grade to top grade, and their realm entered the 7th grade martial arts apprentice from the 6th grade. So far, all 7 inner disciples have top grade spiritual roots. If an 8th rate sect has 7 disciples with top grade spiritual roots, this will definitely cause an uproar in the martial arts world. When he was in Heokiban, Jun Changxiao bought 2 bottles of qualification transformation fluid, and when the members were full, he bought 4 more bottles, 1 bottle each for Suzaomo and the other 2, so he still had 3 bottles in his hand. Who should I give it to? After thinking for a while, he called Li Yuhua and gave her 2 bottles of ordinary and medium grade transformation fluids. This kid has a very good physique. When his aptitude is improved, we must count on him to stand in front and taunt us when we enter the Death Valley. After Li Yuhua drank 2 bottles of aptitude transformation liquid, his spiritual roots were upgraded to the middle grade, and his realm broke through from the 9th stage of opening meridians to the 12th stage of opening meridians. He was stunned and stood there. The sudden improvement of spiritual roots and cultivation would make anyone look like this. Jun Changxiao patted him on the shoulder and said, practice well, and don't let me down. Li Yuhua came back to his senses and shouted loudly, yes. Jun Changxiao decided to give the last bottle of ordinary aptitude transformation liquid to the shy Ling Yuangsu. First, she had been practicing very hard during this period, and second, there were few female disciples in the sect. Everything is done. In the next period of time, wait for the disciples to complete all the sect tasks so that the achievement value reaches the cap, and then improve the sect construction. Level 2 opens the alchemy pavilion, which has healing pills and shaping pills sold in the mall. Level 3 opens the casting pavilion. Will it also be able to cast commercial weapons? Jun Changxiao is looking forward to it. 7 days later, the disciples completed all the sect tasks, and the achievement value increased from the initial 100 to 500 points. It can be said that it was very accurate. I was not willing to give it one more point. Gaining 400 achievement points must have also gained 400 contribution points. When it was about to overflow, Jun Changxiao spent 180 points to buy a Type 88 sniper rifle, an 8-fold scope, shoulder guards and a silencer. Thank you, Master. Li Luoqiu took the Type 88 sniper rifle equipped with an 8-fold scope and a silencer, and caressed it lovingly. During this period, she was conscientious and responsible, so it was also a reward. Jun Changxiao smiled and said, "This Shenwei fire gun has been modified, and there will be no movement after firing." Really? Li Luoqiu came to the back mountain with the Type 88 sniper rifle. She had fired 2 shots before, and knew that it was powerful, so after loading the bullets, she obediently put on the modified shoulder guard. Swish, swish. 2 silent shots were fired, and the 2 adjacent fruits hanging on the tree in the distance were smashed one by one. This woman's shooting talent is not worse than Xiao Zuji, or even better. There is really no sound. Li Luoqiu widened his eyes. With a normal silencer, you can still hear a little movement, but with the modified silencer, there is only a slight sound of breaking wind, which is absolutely great for sneak attacks. Li Luoqiu immediately liked it even more. I wish I could go down the mountain right now to find an enemy, and then hide in the dark and shoot him down. In the study, Jun Changxiao rubbed his hands, then opened the attribute panel, and saw that the upgradable button appeared again behind school construction, level 2. Click. Ding. Sect construction has been upgraded to level 3. Ding. Sect members, contribution points, and achievement points have been increased. Ding. Sect foundry is open. When the prompt sounded, the data panel suddenly changed drastically. Sect name, Strongest Sect. Sect leader, Jun Changxiao. Sect level, 8th stream. Sect construction, level 3. Sect functions, alchemy pavilion, casting pavilion. Sect skills, Yijinjing, divine grade elementary, middle grade elementary, explosive fist, ordinary grade high level. Sect members, 500,000. Sect contribution value, 450,000. Sect achievement value, 0,000. Sect mission, none. Sect mainline mission, within 100 years. Hahaha, the upper limit of the number of people has finally exceeded 1,000. Jun Chang laughed, but he cried as he laughed. It's still 99,000 short. 1,099,000. Well, the gap is not ordinary. Anyway, raising the sect construction to level 3 is equivalent to taking another step forward, which is something to be happy about. Swish. Jun Chang laughed at the newly appeared casting pavilion, and a small panel popped up, showing a casting table like a 3D projection. 3 weapons are listed below, one of which is the 1st grade cold edge sword, the second is the 1st grade overlord spear, and the third is the 1st grade iron shield. Sure enough, it's the same as the alchemy pavilion. Jun Changxiao said happily. This casting pavilion also has weapons from the primary mall that can be cast. Click on the 1st grade cold edge sword, and a small panel pops up with the content. Weapon, 1st grade cold edge sword. Materials, 0/1 gin of cold iron, 0/1 bucket of ice spring water. Fire, exquisite fire. So few materials? Jun Changxiao said in astonishment. Most of the elixirs in the alchemy pavilion require 3 or 4 kinds of medicinal materials, and the cold edge sword requires a gin of cold iron and a bucket of ice spring water, which is pitifully little. The system said, except for high level and special weapons that require multiple ores, most of them only need 1 ore. Jun Changxiao held his chin and murmured, this cold iron, I'm afraid it's expensive. As he said that, he clicked on the introduction of the 1st grade overlord spear. This is even simpler, only a gin of obsidian is needed. Jun Changxiao then clicked on the 1st grade hard iron shield and grinned, because the material needed was iron ore. He didn't have any cold iron or obsidian, but he had a lot of iron ore, because Li Luoqiu brought a lot of it after he got the Xiao family's mine. which was worth hundreds of thousands of taels. From the number shown above, it can be used to refine more than 1,000 hard iron shields. Jun Changxiao said, this kind of ore is useless anyway, so let's refine 500 shields first, and give one to each disciple. The system reminded, iron ore is an indispensable auxiliary ore for the refining of many weapons and equipment. It is recommended that the host use it sparingly. Really? Jun Changxiao thought for a while and said, then refine 25 first, and let the disciples equip them all when we go to Death Valley. Chapter 173 First Grade Strong Iron Shield. The equipment on the Foundry Pavilion can also be easily cast with one click, as long as there are enough materials and fire. However, when Jun Changxiao refined the first hard iron shield, it took half an hour, so he collapsed and said, it's so slow. The system said, if this sentence is heard by the professional foundry masters in the Xingqiu continent, they will definitely hit the host's head with a brick. Why? Jun Changxiao said. The system explained, it takes at least 2 days for a professional foundry master to forge the lowest level equipment, smelting ore and repeatedly hammering. The host thinks it's too slow to finish it in half an hour, which will definitely stimulate them. Oh. Jun Changxiao murmured, compared with 2 days, it's really not slow. Not only is it not slow, it's too fast. Swish. With a thought, he took out the first grade hard iron shield he had refined. It was a more conventional round shield, similar in size to an ordinary pot lid. Although it was cast with iron ore, it was very light. There was a gripper in the center of the inner surface of the shield. The outside of the shield was pitch black, with a groove at the center point. Having had experience in loading bullets into a magazine, Jun Changxiao immediately judged, this shield can integrate crystal core energy. Smart. The system said. Jun Changxiao continued to let the Foundry Pavilion refine the second shield, and then took out a low-level crystal core, and integrated the energy into the groove. After the energy was full, streams of light spread out from the center point, and finally outlined a pattern similar to the 5-element and 8 trigrams, which seemed to be coated with fluorescent powder at first glance. Handsome. Jun Changxiao said. As soon as the voice fell, the stream of light suddenly weakened. Although the pattern remained on the shield, the color was gray. Jun Changxiao said, what's the situation? The system said, the host can pick up the shield and inject thoughts into it to activate the defense function. Defense function? Jun Changxiao put his palm on the inner grip of the shield and communicated with the shield with his mind. But, just as it was touched, a circular barrier similar to the formation barrier appeared, close to the front of the shield. Looking at the stream of light barrier that protected him completely, Jun Changxiao exclaimed, this is super cool. But, how about defense? The system said, the iron shield activates the defensive barrier, and the defensive strength is quite high. Huh. Just at this moment, Li Luoqiu walked in and said, Master, what is this? Shield. Jun Chang said with a smile. Li Luoqiu of course knew it was a shield plate, and pointed at the seemingly real and illusory light barrier, saying, I'm talking about this, why does it look a bit like a formation? Jun Chang said with a smile, defensive barrier. Come on. He turned around with the shield plate raised and said, take out the Desert Eagle, and try to shoot at my shield. Li Luoqiu said with a smile, what if it breaks, and hurts the master? It can't be broken. Jun Chang said with a smile. Really? Really? Okay. Li Luoqiu raised his hand, and the Desert Eagle appeared out of thin air. Click. The bullet was loaded, the muzzle was aimed at the defensive barrier, and he fired without hesitation. Master Li, who was born as a killer, was very clean and efficient. However, when she fired, her eyes were filled with surprise, because the bullets hit the defensive barrier without causing any damage. How is it? Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Not bad for defense, right? Li Luoqiu said in surprise. Master, is your shield a high-end defensive treasure of the middle grade? Jun Changxiao didn't know the quality of the first grade iron shield, so he had to cooperate and said, yes, it is a high-end middle grade. No wonder. Li Luoqiu blinked and said with a smile, Master, do you have a lot of shields? If so, give us a few in Xiaotang. Jun Changxiao retracted his thoughts, and the defensive barrier disappeared, saying, we'll see about the situation later. Okay. Li Luoqiu shrugged. What do you want to see me for? Jun Changxiao said with a smile. Li Luoqiu said, the intelligence from Heoki sect said that Qin Horan left Qingyang County. Judging from the direction, he seems to have gone to Shengquan sect. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, this guy has fallen into a big trouble. Could it be that he wants to go to Shengquan sect to ask for help from experts? Li Luoqiu said, it's possible. Jun Changxiao shook his head and overturned his guess, saying, we have a battle appointment with Shengquan sect. If they claim to be a famous sect, they will definitely not send strong people, because this will give people a reason to criticize them. That's right. Li Luoqiu said. The battle appointment was made, and the whole Qingyang County knew about it. Shengquan sect must have some concerns, otherwise they would send people to continue to cause trouble behind Lingquan Mountain. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, in my opinion, the reason why Alliance leader Qin came here is to ask Shengquan sect to take better care of Artigu sect when their ranger battle. Will a 5th-rate sect listen to a 6th-rate sect? Li Luoqiu said. It's just a mouth under the nose, and the content is all made up by itself. Jun Changxiao said, what's more, if Alliance leader Qin gives some more benefits, Shengquan sect may be happy to accept it. Li Luoqiu frowned and said, so, if we go to Shengquan sect, the situation will become more troublesome. It doesn't matter. Jun Changxiao didn't care. In his opinion, Qin Horan's method is nothing, and the Lingquan sect's tricks behind the scenes are hateful and abominable. For a whole night, the Foundry Pavilion kept running, and refined another 24 shields. Although the iron shield is very good, it needs crystal cores to form a barrier, and after being hit by the Desert Eagle, 1/10 of the energy is consumed. This means that, once the energy is exhausted, the defensive barrier will fail. Jun Changxiao murmured, after entering the Death Valley, the disciples can use it to resist the attacks of the beasts. The next day, he summoned 25 disciples. Not counting the inner disciples and the 10 top-grade spiritual roots, the other 8 filling disciples were Zhao Hong, Long Xiang, Li Yuhe, Ling Yuangsu and others. Jun Changxiao distributed the shields one by one, and then gave each of them a crystal core. After briefly explaining how to inject energy, he said, don't easily activate the defense barrier to block, unless it is a critical moment. Yes. The disciples shouted. He didn't equip Zhao Han with a shield, because this guy would definitely use a sword instead of a shield. TSK. I'm a dignified martial emperor, how could I use such a crude shield for defense? Yi Xingchen despised the iron shield. After all, he had never used a shield similar to the one used by mortal soldiers in battle in his previous life. Just imagine, the martial emperor who can fly into the sky and hide in the ground, covering the sky with one hand, carrying an iron shield on his back. How cheap it would be. How could I use such a crude thing? Back in the room, Yi Xingchen casually threw the iron shield in the corner. Outside, Suzuomo melted the crystal core into the shield, activating the defensive barrier, and exclaimed, this shield is so powerful. TSK. Yi Xingchen snorted coldly. But when he turned around, his peripheral vision swept over the defensive barrier outside the window, and he was surprised and said, is this a defensive treasure? Weapons are nothing more than swords, spears, swords, and halberds, but treasures are more complicated. For example, Buddhist beads, seals, or even a seemingly ordinary bracelet. As long as they have special functions, they can be called treasures. Rings with storage space are also treasures. The iron shield can activate the defensive barrier function, which means it is also a treasure. In the Starfall continent, at the same quality, the value of defensive and offensive treasures is higher than that of weapons. Yi Xingchen hurriedly took the shield thrown in the corner, and then poured the crystal core into it. When the defensive barrier was activated, he was immediately surprised. A mid-grade high-level defensive treasure. The first grade iron shield is defined as a mid-grade high level, and in terms of value, it can definitely be comparable to a top-grade primary weapon. What shocked Yi Xingchen was not the quality, but the fact that the head of the sect had taken out 24 of these defensive treasures at once. This guy really has something. Chapter 174. The AI family master is here to give money again. The disciple took the shield and left, and Ling Yuangsu was left alone. In the study room, only she and Jun Changxiao were left. Ling Yuangsu kept her head down, and her hands were shaking slightly. This was her first time to be alone with the headmaster. She was shy by nature, and now she must be very nervous. Pa. Suddenly, there was a sound. Ling Yuanxu was startled and took 2 steps back unconsciously. Seeing this, Jun Changxiao said inwardly, she was frightened just by putting the qualification transformation liquid on the table. She is too timid. Yuanxu. He held his cheek and said, what is your dream? Why did the headmaster ask about dreams again? Ling Yuanxu whispered, my dream is to practice martial arts and prove it to you stinky. No, prove it to all the stinky men except the head. Jun Changxiao said seriously, practicing martial arts is not to prove it to others, but to prove it to yourself. Understand? Understand. Pa. Jun Changxiao slapped the table and said sharply, louder. Ling Yuanxu was almost scared to tears, then closed her eyes and said loudly, understand. Jun Changxiao's tone softened and said, martial arts is about courage. When you go to Death Valley, I hope to see your brave and strong side. Understand? Ling Yuanxu said. Jun Changxiao said, drink this bottle of liquid medicine. Oh. Ling Yuanxu came over step by step, then picked up the bottle of qualification transformation liquid, opened the bottle stopper and drank it. After a while, her face became extremely red, her spiritual root qualification stepped from low grade to ordinary grade, and her cultivation level also stepped from the 10th stage of opening meridians to the 12th stage. Ling Yuanxu stood there with her eyes wide open. After each of the 24 disciples was equipped with a strong iron shield, Jun Changxiao asked them to continue practicing and prepare for the trip to Death Valley in the near future. As for Qingyang County, they were still discussing the victory of the Tigu sect over the Heoki sect until another big news spread. What big news? 7 days later, the AI family auctioned the body shaping pill. This kind of pill that improves physical strength had spread long before the Tigu sect challenged the Heoki sect, and then suddenly there was no follow-up, and many people almost forgot about it. I could forget it last time, but I can't forget it this time. Because after the AI family determined the auction date, they carried out super large-scale publicity, and all kinds of praise advertising words were used, which gave people a very exaggerated feeling. What's more exaggerated is that, unlike the past, the AI family's auction of pills this time directly announced the starting price of the body shaping pill. How much? The starting price is 1 million taels. 1 million taels? Too much. Even if you auction a top grade elixir, it can't possibly be this price. Too extravagant. I can't afford it. If Jun Changxiao auctioned it, the starting price would be 1 million taels, and many warriors would definitely think he was crazy for money. But the AI family is different. After all, it is an old brand, and it used to have healing pills. After hearing the news, many warriors unanimously believed that the effect of the body shaping pill must be miraculous. If AI Shangni used the Tigu sect disciples defeating the Heoki sect disciples for publicity, the sensation would only be greater. But without the authorization of sect master Jun, he would not dare to use it as a gimmick. The price of 1 million taels is already a big gimmick. After hearing the news, the major families and sects in Qingyang County who trusted the AI family enough naturally began to raise funds. Jun Changxiao also received the news and said with a smile, the starting price is 1 million taels. If the auction starts, I dare not imagine the final transaction price. Li Luoqiu said, the body shaping pills refined by the headmaster are very important to warriors. The 4 body shaping pills can probably be sold at a sky-high price under the operation of the AI family. Jun Changxiao continued to develop in the sect and had no interest in participating in the upcoming auction. He did not want to show up in public, but waited behind the scenes to collect the money. 7 days later, the auction was held as scheduled. Because the AI family stated in the publicity that the auction of body shaping pills was limited to warriors in Qingyang County, even if other county forces heard the news, they only sent people to join in the fun. Everyone in the auction house, AI Shangni stood on the auction platform and said, I don't need to tell you about the effects of the body shaping pill. I'm sure you already know it, so let's start the auction directly. Swish. He opened the brocade box and said loudly, the first body shaping pill, the starting price is 1 million taels. 1,100,000 taels. 1,200,000 taels. The fierce bidding kicked off. The major families and sects fought hard. After all, there were only 4 body shaping pills, which were rarer than the previous healing pills. After the auction ended, the news was passed to the Tegu sect, and Jun Changxiao learned that after a fierce competition, the 4 healing pills were auctioned for 10 million. Only 2.5 million per pill? He shook his head and said, "It doesn't seem too high." Li Luoqiu said, "The AI family's auction this time is limited to Qingyang County. No forces from other counties are allowed to participate. It's good to be able to auction for 10 million. That's right." Jun Changxiao was relieved. According to the agreement of 40:60, he could earn 4 million taels of silver. It was just like picking up money. More than that. After auctioning the body shaping pill, the AI family continued to auction the healing pill. Although without the participation of forces from other counties, 10 healing pills could not reach the height of more than 6 million last time, but they still auctioned more than 4 million. The AI family did this to take care of the forces in the same county, so that they would not complain all day long. Master, Li Qingyang came to report. The head of the AI family came to visit again. In fact, it would be more appropriate to say the head of the AI family came to give money again. After AI Shangni entered the hall, he first presented the 6 million taels of silver notes. Jun Changxiao liked to cooperate with the AI family very much, so this time he directly gave 50 bottles of healing pills and 10 bottles of body shaping pills. When AI Shangni took it, his hands began to shake unconsciously. With so many pills, if they were auctioned off every once in a while, the profits would be unimaginable. Paying the Zhao family 10 times the liquidated damages? Bullshit. As long as we can make friends with sect leader Jun, even if we pay him 20 times the liquidated damages, our AI family doesn't care. AI Shangni left happily and began to plan a larger auction. On the way, he had already thought that the next auction of healing pills and body shaping pills would no longer be limited to Qingyang County, but open to the public. The auction gradually faded as time passed. With the busy craftsmen, the reconstruction of the outer courtyard of the Tegu sect has been completed, the venue has become larger, and there are more pavilions. Especially the main hall, which has been transformed to be more magnificent and more magnificent. The foundation of a sect is all in the main hall. So after challenging the Heoki sect, Li Qingyang put all his energy into the main hall. Why? Because the outer courtyard and pavilions can be expanded and built at will, but the main hall must remain in place. So if you want to transform it, you have to do it in one step. Li Qingyang's idea is very correct. After the second renovation of the hall, it will take a long time for it not to be renovated again. Not bad, not bad. Standing in the extremely spacious and magnificent hall, Jun Changxiao smiled with satisfaction. Master, Li Qingyang said, disciple has made a sketch of a larger scale renovation, and we can do the third renovation at any time. That's very good. We'll talk about it after the third renovation. Jun Changxiao paused and said, pass the order down. Let the special training disciples have a good rest tonight, and set off for Death Valley tomorrow. P.S. Please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 175. What a waste. There are still more than 10 days left before the 2 months stipulated in the epic mission. Death Valley is quite far away, and it takes a while to travel, so Jun Changxiao decided to set off tomorrow. The 25 disciples who were selected have all made good progress in their realms, especially the 10 disciples with middle grade spiritual roots, all of whom have entered the 5th grade martial arts apprentices. Because there are not many 10-fold key gathering pills, they all took the 5-fold type, and their speed is not as fast as Li Qingyang and others who went to the Heoki sect for training earlier. If they joined other sects during the recruitment of the 100 sects, it would be the limit to be able to enter the martial arts apprentice from opening the meridians at this moment. Therefore, the 10 disciples with middle grade spiritual roots are very satisfied and grateful. Long Xiang and Li Yuhua have also made good progress. One has entered the 5th grade martial arts apprentice, and the other has entered the 4th grade martial arts apprentice. Especially Li Yuhua, after a month of training, not only has he developed extremely strong physical defense, but he has also become very flexible. If Suzaomo and others want to kick him with a football, they must burst out at least 70% to 80% of their strength. After Ling Yuangsu took the qualification transformation liquid, he relied on the cyclone pill to break through the martial arts apprentice, and later practiced and entered the 3rd grade martial arts apprentice. These are all outer disciples. Although the 7 inner disciples did not have the tenfold ki condensation pill, their improvement in a month was also very good. Yi Xingchen entered the 9th grade, and his realm was the same as Li Qingyang. Su Xiaomo, Li Fei, and Xian Qi were all 8th grade, and Xiao Zuji was a 6th grade martial arts apprentice. As for Lu Qian, in her words, she was a 4th grade martial arts apprentice. She was able to use her spiritual power to transform into small fists and knock out her opponent in seconds at Aokiman. Everyone did not think that the eldest sister was really only a 4th grade martial arts apprentice. Of course, in the past month, other disciples have also improved well. Disciples with mediocre qualifications such as Li Shangshan and Sima Zhangde have also entered the 2nd and 3rd grade martial arts apprentices. The last batch of disciples who joined entered the 10th stage of opening meridians with the help of Yi Jinjing, quenching pill and Kame pill, and are not far from the full 12 stages. Can the sect level be improved? No. The certification requirements of the 7-stream sect are a head martial artist, 50 martial artists, and 500 martial artists who have opened their meridians to the 12th level. He failed the first point, so Jun Changxiao had to complete the epic task anyway, so that he could upgrade to a martial artist. Moreover, judging from the completion of the first task, if he completed the second epic task, he might be able to directly break through to a great realm. The next day, after the 25 disciples had breakfast prepared by Liu Wanshi, they left the Tigu sect in a mighty procession under the leadership of Jun Changxiao. After seeing them off, the other disciples continued to practice. They hoped to become stronger faster, so that they could follow the head martial artists, to practice together in the future. Li Luoqiu was in charge of the sect, but after watching Jun Changxiao and the others leave, he secretly said, "Death Valley is full of dangers. I hope we can return safely." Death Valley has a bad reputation. It was hard for her not to think that some of her disciples might never come back after taking so many people to practice. "Are you afraid?" Jun Changxiao asked on the way. "No," the disciples shouted in unison. Even though they knew that this trip would be extremely dangerous, they were not afraid at all, because they had a strong will. Death Valley is in the south of Qingyang County, deep in the mountains and forests, at least 1,000 miles away from Qingyang City. Because there was still enough time, Jun Changxiao was not in a hurry to get on the road. He took his disciples to stop and appreciate the beautiful scenery occasionally. It must be said that in a world with abundant spiritual power, the wild scenery is pleasant and makes people linger. When Jun Changxiao led his disciples to a waterfall, he could not suppress the anger in his heart and immediately chanted a poem. The sun shines on the incense burner and produces purple smoke, and the waterfall hangs in front of the river from a distance. The waterfall falls 3,000 feet straight down, and it is suspected that the Milky Way falls from the sky. The disciples were stunned. It turns out that the head can also write poems. Suzaomo and others are not from a big family, and their culture is limited. They just feel that this poem sounds very smooth. The waterfall falls straight down 3,000 feet. It seems like the Milky Way falls from the sky. After savoring it carefully, Long Xiang clapped his hands and said, "Great, great." Lu Qian, who was always cold and icy, was surprised when she heard Jun Chang's poem. In the Xinjiang continent, there are a lot of warriors, but it is not easy to find such cultured people. Master is really amazing. Ling Yuangsu worshipped him without following the procedure. If the system had a pretense value, Master Jun would definitely gain a lot instantly by reciting Li Bei's poem about the waterfall and Mount Lu. Swish. In the pleasant mountain forest, Xiao Zuji rushed with her 88 type sniper rifle on his back, then stopped in front of a tree, set the gun, and pulled the trigger. Swish. Under the silencer, the bullet shot out silently and hit a goat running in the distance accurately. Swish. Suzaomo rushed over, carried the goat on his back, and came to a stream, where he began to skin and debone the goat skillfully. After finishing, he hung the goat on a branch. Zhao Han came over, with the shadow of the sword spreading, and instantly cut it into pieces. Before it fell off, several disciples came over with bamboo baskets, and then caught the scattered pieces of mutton. Swish, swish, swish. Use bamboo sticks to string the mutton pieces together and then send them to the headmaster. Jun Changxiao placed the mutton skewers on the temporary barbecue table, and the exquisite fire was released and began to rotate continuously. Xiao Zuji fired. Zhao Han drew his sword. The disciples were busy for a while, as if facing a great enemy. They were just grilling skewers. Xiaomo. Jun Changxiao shouted, "Where are the kidneys?" Su Xiaomo, who was standing by the stream, said, "Headmaster, I threw away all the internal organs." Damn. Jun Changxiao said, "What a waste." Li Qingyang's mouth twitched. "My headmaster, you are using a bullet to grill meat with exquisite fire. This is a waste. It's so boring." Yi Xingchen, who was sitting far away, didn't care. Soon, the skewers were cooked. Jun Changxiao sprinkled chili and cumin on them and said, "Come and try my skewer skills." The disciples living in Xinjiang continent had never seen this kind of barbecue, so they took a skewer and ate it curiously and then praised it highly. Junior brother Yi, Li Qingyang handed over the mutton skewers and said, "Try it too." TSK. Yi Xingchen took it reluctantly, took a bite, and then, well, ate the rest. No one can resist the temptation of delicious food, not even the cold and arrogant Emperor Wu. He can write poems and grill skewers. The disciples' admiration for the master is as endless as the torrent of the river. After the outdoor barbecue, Jun Changxiao led the disciples to continue on their journey and stopped in front of the Death Valley shrouded in light fog the next day. The three big characters Death Valley were engraved on the stone wall at the entrance of the valley, and the color was red, as if dyed with blood. Whoosh! The cold wind blew in and poured into the valley, creating a sound like ghosts howling. In front of the valley, many warriors were hesitating. When they saw Jun Changxiao and his group coming, they immediately whispered, "Huh, is it the Iron Bone Sect? Master Jun brought so many disciples here. Are they going to the Death Valley for training? Without the Wuzong to lead us, we will die if we rashly go in." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.